Welcome to Fantasy Audiobook. I'm in Naruto. Double package at the start. Chapter 81. Pata pata pata. There was a burst of rushing footsteps. Sunagaku's large forces stepped directly into the territory of the Fire Country. Not long after, they came to the position where the advance troops were killed yesterday. Is it here? Looking at the red land in front of him, Ebizo's voice was very gloomy. After the 5 advance team members of Takashi retreated last night, they had already told Ebizo what happened to the advance team. Yes, it was at this position yesterday and I met Konoha Jonin Baiyun Zhaojian. Captain and the others, they are probably not lucky enough. Guiji said sadly. Returning to this position, the fierce battle yesterday seemed to have reappeared in his mind. Unconsciously, he trembled again. Go in and take a look. 350. After getting the confirmation, Ebizo led the troops to the battlefield. As it went deeper and deeper, the ground in front of me became more and more red. But there are no more bodies on the ground, because the dead bodies can also be used as bargaining chips after the war. So I was sealed by Yuri Hongzan and the others in the scroll long ago. The bloodline on the ground has already dried up, but the bloody smell of the air was still strong and pungent. The expressions of Sand Shinobi's expressions were extremely heavy. The amount of bleeding on the ground, and the pits and holes everywhere, all show the tragic situation of yesterday's battle. This is the slash you said yesterday. When you reach the center of the battlefield, several ditches across the battlefield caught the eyes of all Sand Shinobi. No one is not a pair, shocked inexplicable expression. Yesterday, I heard that the opponent slashed at a height of 10 to 20 meters. No one of Ebizo and the commanders could believe it. Because in the ninja world, no one's swordsmanship can be so powerful. Even Konoha's White Fang, who was once famous in ninja world, his Hatake swordsmanship can only cut a slash of 3 or 4 meters at most. And he also needs to use chakra to start. But at this moment, after witnessing it with their own eyes, all Sand Shinobi believed after these few trenches that traverse the battlefield. Yes, Guiji pointed at one of the ditches with a sad expression on his face. The voice choked and said, the attack yesterday killed 30 people in the advance team. Guru, guru, guru. The sound of drooling, one after another in Sand Shinobi's troops. It feels a little absurd in everyone's mind. But the facts are in front of them, and they have to believe it. It seems that the strength of this Baiyun Zhaojian is very tricky. An unusually solemn female voice sounded. The speaker has 2 yellow bangs on both sides of his cheeks. Wearing a backless dress exposed her smooth and white back. She is Sunagaku Jonin, Scorch-style Hakura. But at this time, she has not yet become a hero of Sunagaku. He will pay for his slaughter. Hearing Yi Kang's words, Ebizo said in an oath. And the Sand Shinobi behind him, after hearing his words, nodded fiercely. The advance troops did not retreat, they fought to the point that all their staff died. So Sand Shinobi's troops, although they also suffered a bit of morale. But at this moment, hatred is predominant. And hatred is transformed into motivation. Even more aroused their fighting spirit to defeat Konoha. Go to Kikyo Castle. After seeing the atmosphere warming up again, Ebizo gave an order. Then he directly crossed the ditch and headed towards Kikyo Castle first. Pata pata pata. The sound of dense footsteps sounded. Sunagaku's troops moved forward again. Master Zhaojian. Master Zhaojian. After coming out of the pavilion, Zhaojian and Kushina walked on the castle tower of Kikyo together. The Konoha shinobi who met on the road all greeted him respectfully. This made Zhaojian feel a little speechless. Didn't you see that you are developing a relationship with Kushina? You guys who don't see, what do you say hello? Zhaojian smiled and nodded in response, but he spoke silently in his heart. While walking, Zhaojian and Kushina walked to the top of Platakodan. At this moment, Ziri is really red, and is waiting here. As the commander of the garrison at this time, he did not dare to slack off. Senior Red, when will the reinforcements of the village come? Thinking of your own system tasks, you need to stick to Konoha reinforcement force. So Zhaojian asked Yuri Junhong. The war information should have arrived at Konoha last night. If I guess correctly, support will arrive tomorrow. Hear Zhaojian's inquiry. Tari Junhong thought about it, then answered seriously. At this moment, in Kikyo City, Zhaojian, a cage level, is in charge. The atmosphere of the defenders has been relaxed a lot. And Yuri Junhong himself is not as heavy as yesterday. Tomorrow, Zhao Jian frowned at Tari Junhong's answer. The task of the system is to defend Kikyo Castle before the arrival of reinforcements. So that means, Sunagakur will arrive to attack Kikyo Castle before tomorrow. What's wrong? Seeing Zhao Jian looked solemn and raised his brows. Tari Junhong and Kushina both looked at their puzzled eyes. Kagura's heart. Zhao Jian did not answer the two. The moment the eyes were closed, all perceptions focused in the direction of the border. 10 kilometers, 20 kilometers, 30 kilometers. Increasing the chakra consumption, Zhao Jian's perception is also unprecedentedly enlarged. Soon I perceive something that is 40 kilometers away. Just when Zhao Jian was serious and swept his perception around, a large group of ninjas, 3.0, just stepped into his range of perception. The number is huge, more than 1,000 people. Boom! Zhao Jian instantly cut off the supply of chakra. Sensation was like a tide, and quickly returned to his body. Call. The Sunagakur troops are here, the number is about 1,000. After taking a few deep breaths, Zhao Jian looked dignified and looked at Yuri Junhong and Kushina. What? 1,000 people? Tari Junhong and Kushina looked horrified. At the moment, there are only about 100 defenders in Kikyo Castle. In addition to Zhao Jian's record of killing 100 people, at most it can be regarded as a combat power of more than 300 people. How are these more than 1,000 people going to fight? Sense ninja. Hearing Zhao Jian's words, Tahi Junhong suddenly roared and ordered Konoha's perception ninja to confirm. However, the other party felt it for a while, but shook his head to indicate no. The visitor is 40 kilometers away. I saw a few people look at themselves with doubts. Zhao Jian gasped for a while before speaking to them. What? 40 kilometers away? Are you a monster? How can you perceive such a long distance? After listening to Zhao Jian's explanation, all the people present were shocked on the spot. A ninja who is generally strong in perception skills has a rough perception range of just over a dozen miles. Zhao Jian, these 40 kilometers away, simply subverted their cognition. This is more than 6 or 7 times stronger than other excellent perception ninjas. Where do they know? Zhao Jian's Kagura hard eyes, but one of the strongest perceptive ninjutsu in the ninjutsu world. As far as the range of perception is concerned, only Nagato's Rain Tiger Freedom technique can crush him. O2, get ready for battle. The enemy will arrive here in about an hour. Zhao Jian said solemnly. At this moment he has been relieved. How should these 1,000 people fight? Shouldn't we now evacuate the people from Kikyo Castle? Upon hearing Zhao Jian's words, Yuri really blushed with a wry smile. Then he directly expressed the thoughts in his heart. You can evacuate the people first. But I will never back down. Zhao Jian was silent for a while, and said categorically. Although the enemy is indeed numerous. But he also didn't want to give up the 4-star mission. After all, this is 20,000 points of prestige. I stay with you. See Zhao Jian's resolute expression. So Kushina stood beside him without thinking about it. Are young people now so courageous? Seeing that the two of Zhao Jian were about to stay to guard Kikyo Castle, Yuri Junhong felt a headache in her head. The best option at the moment is to temporarily avoid the edge and wait for reinforcements. How sure are you to hold Kikyo Castle? Seeing that Zhao Jian's expression did not waver at all, Yuri was really helpless. About 30%. After thinking about it, Zhao Jian looked up and answered seriously. Since the system can issue tasks, it means that there will never be a layer of hope. I was estimating my own strength at this time, and the whirlpool shuriken that I had just drawn. Zhao Jian gave a very pertinent answer. 3 layers. Tari was really red and looked at Zhao Jian in surprise. I don't know where Zhao Jian's 3 levels of assurance come from. After all, this is 100 dozen and 1,000. But no one has the strength of his 100 people. Yes, 3 floors. Zhao Jian nodded seriously. As long as the sand shinobi will not swarm in. Then he still has a chance to defend Kikyo Castle. Well, since you have 3 levels of assurance, then we will accompany you to guard Kikyo City. Seeing that Zhao Jian looked serious, he did not look arrogant. So Yuri Junhong gritted his teeth, and finally decided to take the team to stay and defend the city together. In that case, then quickly arrange for the people to retreat and prepare to face Sand Shinobi. Zhao Jian nodded and said, If these 100 Konoha shinobi are also willing to stay and guard Kikyo Castle, his confidence will be even greater. After all, he alone cannot stop Sand Shinobi's all-round invasion. But if there are Konoha shinobi players, then you can rush out, echoing with them inside and out, blocking Sand Shinobi's attack. After making up his mind, Yuri Junhong hurriedly went down to the tower to arrange matters. The bell rang. All the Konoha shinobi were summoned. After Ta Risen first divided some people, he went to inform the people to evacuate. Then some people were arranged to set up traps outside the city. The entire interior and exterior of Kikyo Castle began to get busy. Due to time constraints, the people who were evacuated were all dressed lightly, and in a short while, the entire Platycodon was empty. Captain True read, "The trap has been set. I'm over here too." The report sounded. The ninjas who went to set up traps outside the city also rushed back after finishing the arrangement. Before everyone, when they heard that they were going to resist the 1,000-man brigade, their faces were sallow and their legs trembled. But since Yuri Junhong gave the order, none of them retreated and escaped. Yesterday, I just heard about Sand Shinobi's terrible way of fighting to the end. If they retreat at this time, isn't that equivalent to proving that you and others are not as good as those Sand Shinobi? They don't want to lose Konoha's reputation. Call. All cheer me up. Since Sunagakur dares to take the initiative to commit a crime, then we let them know that Konoha is not good. Let them pay a heavy price for the invasion. Can Kikyo Castle be held? It's all up to everyone. Tari Junhong stood on the stairs of the city gate and spoke loudly. The voice was full of inspiring and determination. And the Konoha shinobi below, also gradually infected by Yuri's pre-war declaration. The fierce breath began to slowly radiate from them. Since Sand Shinobi dared to take the initiative to commit a crime, they also want Sand Shinobi to see Konoha's blood. Guard Kikyo Castle, repel Sunagakur. Guard Kikyo Castle, repel Sunagakur. I don't know who yelled, but the second yelled with passion, and instantly rang one after another. Even Kakashi was infected, and then roared a few times. Good. Everyone has their own place, let Sand Shinobi see how we are. Seeing the atmosphere being revitalized, Yuri Junhong nodded secretly in satisfaction. Then with a big wave, all Sand Shinobi quickly spread out. Zhaojian had already talked to Tari Junhong before. They only need to guard the tower and leave the rest to him. Kushina, when I rush down, you must not follow. Looking at Kushina who has been following her, Zhaojian gave her a vaccination in advance. Otherwise, after a while, her head will get hot, and it will be troublesome to rush down with her. I see, I won't go down and drag you down, so don't worry. Hearing Kushina's helpless words, Zhaojian was a little suspicious. Why is this so unbelievable? Okay, I get it. Zhaojian stared at Kushina for a long time. It wasn't until she was a little embarrassed to look at her, that she seriously agreed. With Kushina's promise, Zhaojian breathed a sigh of relief. The situation at the moment is not like yesterday. If Kushina follows her, she is not sure to protect her. By the way, give you something. Thinking of the next, there will be a protracted fierce battle. So Zhaojian raised his hand and handed something to Kushina. What do you give me a bean for? Seeing the green beans handed by Zhaojian, Kushina asked with a puzzled look. However, she stretched out her delicate hand and picked up the green beans in Zhaojian's hand. Don't underestimate this bean, it's a treasure. Seeing Kushina's doubts, Zhaojian explained it to her. I only got 3 of this thing, so it is very precious. In the battle yesterday, I was not willing to use one in the end. Recover all stamina and injuries in an instant. After listening to Zhaojian's introduction, Kushina's face was full of incredible expressions. Unexpectedly, a bean that looks very ordinary has such a magical effect. Realizing the value of this thing, Kushina suddenly took out a handkerchief. Then carefully wrapped the fairy beans. You silly girl, what are you doing? This thing is for you to save your life when you are in danger. You are wrapped so tightly, can you use it in time when it is endangered? Seeing Kushina as if receiving a token of love, carefully wrapping the fairy beans, the black line on Zhaojian's forehead suddenly emerged. Kushina was shocked by Zhaojian's scolding, then reopened the handkerchief and took out the fairy beans. She also realized the preciousness of this thing, and then instinctively wrapped it up. Teacher, what about me? Hearing the magic of this bean, Kakashi, who was standing next to the two, also looked at Zhaojian with a look of eagerness. Didn't you like to eat soldiers' grain pills before? You can take the Liang pill again today. Seeing the hope in Kakashi's eyes, Zhaojian suddenly became speechless. Kaido. This thing is so precious that I only have 3 in total, and your little melon skin wants to take away the one as a teacher. Dreaming go, funny. Gif. Hearing what teacher Zhaojian said, Kakashi had a black line and felt a little wronged in his heart. Obviously, you were the teacher before you persuaded me not to take soldiers and grain pills. Why did this suddenly change? Sunagaker forces. Master Ebizo, we are almost at Kikyo Castle. Sand Shinobi, who was running in the center of Sand Shinobi's unit, turned to remind Ebizo. Because Ebizo is not a dedicated combatant. It's the commander of the team. So at this moment, he has retreated from the foremost position to the protection of the team. Illustration. Ebizo nodded in response, then turned his head and said, tell the sensing ninja to explore the interior of Kikyo Castle. Yes, Sand Shinobi got the order and gradually accelerated to the front of the team. It didn't take long for him to lead a perception ninja back. Master Ebizo. After coming to Ebizo's side, the perception ninja directly reported. The buildings in Kikyo are already empty. At this moment, there are only 105 people in the entire city, but 2 of them have an unusually large chakra. After listening to the report of the perception ninja, Ebizo's brows suddenly frowned. In this report, why does it seem to be a little familiar? There was a flash of inspiration in his mind, and Ebizo remembered it instantly. Among the information that Guiji brought back, the chakra of Zhaojian and Kushina was also extremely large. It seems that the 2 of them are now in Kikyo Castle. Notify everyone, enter the state of combat readiness. After thinking about it, Ebizo immediately spoke to Sand Shinobi, who was next to him. At this moment, the front of the team suddenly heard bursts of blasting sounds. Boom, 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 smoke and flames burst. Several Sand Shinobi running at the front of the team were instantly submerged by the explosion of flames. Ta 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 ta. The sudden change caused the advancing team to stop immediately. What happened? Ebizo, who also stopped anxiously, craned his neck and looked forward. Soon I saw a Sand Shinobi who was rushing over. Master Ebizo. There are a lot of detonating talisman traps ahead, do I need to take a detour? Sand Shinobi came to Ebizo and immediately bowed and reported respectfully. Why detour, are you a pig? Just use wind style to break it open for me. Hearing Sand Shinobi's report, Ebizo let out a speechless groan. So many companions are here. What kind of detonating talisman trap is actually afraid of? Sand Shinobi, who was scolded, shrank his neck, and then rushed back to the front with a response. Wind style. Hundreds of Sand Shinobi were called together. Then, using the same ninjutsu, he blew towards the trap area. Rumble, rumble, one of the simplest wind style, used by hundreds of Sand Shinobi at the same time, suddenly exerted its power as if S-rank ninjutsu. Numerous detonating symbols and steel wires in the trap area were instantly blown and broken. The fierce gust of wind was ruthlessly raging. Even countless lush trees were directly blown up from the ground. Good Lihao, the terrain has been completely destroyed and has become a different appearance. It's like being ravaged by Long Jufeng. Ebizo nodded in satisfaction after seeing the smoke and dust rising in front of the team. Such a strong wind blew past, not to mention the detonating talisman trap. It can even blow the smoke and dust to Kikyo Castle, and give the Konoha Shinobi people in Kikyo Castle an effective distraction. Ebizo didn't guess wrong either. The overwhelming smoke and dust did put a lot of pressure on the people in Kikyo City. However, under the loud jokes of Yuri Junhong, the scene was instantly settled down. Illustration. Go ahead. After the trap area was razed to the ground, Ebizo ordered again. The Sand Shinobi are mighty, and they sounded and marched again. To Kikyo Castle. Ha ha ha. Sunagaker, why is this hemp? Does this thing hurt a little bit? Is this trying to tickle us? Looking at the smoke and dust covering the sky from afar, Yuri Junhong deliberately said loudly and mockingly. You can't do it without sarcasm. The trap that was finally arranged was destroyed in an instant. It also blew out such a huge smoke and dust that hit like a sandstorm. This made the morale that he had finally aroused before, was blown down a bit. Maybe I think the sun is too hot today, so let's blow the air. Ha 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 ha. Under the leading ridicule of Yuri Junhong, the Konoha shinobi also ridiculed. The atmosphere that was originally somewhat depressed suddenly became active again. Since Sunagakur is so joking, let's give them a gift too. In order to make morale more stable. Zhaojian also chuckled lightly. Then jumped onto the pier of the city wall. Master Zhaojian, see the 100 people who beheaded stand up. As a result, the surrounding Konoha shinobi people also responded. Wind style, spiral shuriken. Zhaojian deliberately shouted and raised his right hand high. The wind attribute chakra, from his body, quickly rushed to the palm of his right hand. In the sound of buzzing, a chakra ball instantly congealed in his hand. The sound is getting harsher and sharper. Chakra inside the ball also became more and more violent. 4 rotating wind blades were born on the 4 sides of the sphere, and a different wind magic shuriken finally took shape. Brush 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 brush. The hurricane that comes with the spiral shuriken suddenly blows away all the dust around Zhaojian. And his figure was clearly reflected in everyone's eyes. What kind of ninjutsu is this? What a violent wind attribute chakra. This level of ninjutsu is definitely not something a level can reach. Various sounds of horror continued to sound around the city wall. Even Yuri Junhong, the veteran Jonin, shocked Zhaojian's violent ninjutsu. At this time, there was no trace of ghost or dust around Zhaojian. The white glow from the spiral shuriken shot down from Acda, his high hand. Let him at this moment be like a god descending to the earth. Kushina and Kakashi were also shocked. They thought that Zhaojian's greatest strength was kendo. Unexpectedly, Zhaojian at this moment, he actually resorted to another ninjutsu that opened their eyes. And this ninjutsu, it seems that it has never appeared in the ninja world. No doubt this is the ninjutsu he developed himself. Wind style, spiral shuriken. Zhaojian yelled again and threw the spiral shuriken violently. What? The smoke and dust in the air were directly discharged. The whirlpool shuriken went straight in the direction of the Sunagakur troops, and galloped out quickly. Illustration. Everyone's eyes were fixed on the spiral shuriken that broke through the smoke and disappeared in the field of vision. The other side. Stop, stop. Sunagakur's troops just crossed the previous trap area. Suddenly, the ninja was perceived by a dozen meters in front of the team and stopped at the same time. What happened again? Ebizo loudly shouted in doubt, resounding from the group. And the 2 perception ninjas, also at this moment, quickly retreated from the front. Reporter, there is an extremely violent chakra fluctuating in Kikyo Castle. It is very likely that Konoha's ninjas are brewing some amazing tricks. Hear the words of perception ninja. Ebizo frowned suspiciously. Run, quickly disperse, all spread out. At this moment, all the perception ninjas in the Sunagakur team seemed to sense something collectively. Then they shouted hoarsely and roared loudly. The scene fell into a sluggish moment. The sand shinobi who perceive ninjas don't even know what happened. Buzzing. A sharp and piercing sound suddenly came from the smoke and dust in front of him. Everyone's eyes were immediately attracted to the past subconsciously. I saw a wind-style ninjutsu, which directly penetrated the thick smoke and dust in front, and shot straight towards the team. Run, run fast. After witnessing the violent breath of the spiral shuriken, countless sand shinobi roared collectively. The breath that this wind style exudes is not at all the level that A-level ninjutsu can reach. So sand shinobi, all of a sudden panicked completely. Ah. The sound of breaking through the air kept ringing. Sand shinobi swiftly shot out to the sides and rear. The front line of sand shinobi's troops suddenly jumped. All sand shinobi at this moment can't wait for their parents to give birth to 2 more legs so that they can run faster. And Ebizo, who was in the center of the team, was instantly swept back by 2 perception ninjas and ran out. Buzzing. Just when the sand shinobi were jumping around and escaping, Zhaojian's spiral shuriken finally shot into sand shinobi's troops. Rumble. The roar, resounding through the clouds. The fierce wind is roaring wantonly. It was as if a small nuclear bomb was exploding. The spiral shuriken swelled quickly when it landed and turned into a sphere with a diameter of 100 meters. Sand shinobi, who was close to the edge of the sphere, was blown away directly by the strong wind. The sand shinobi who did not escape in time were enveloped by the explosion of the spiral shuriken. Countless small wind blades, inside the sphere, hit 360 degrees in all directions. Sand Shinobi, who was submerged by the spiral shuriken, couldn't even make a scream, and was beaten into a sieve in an instant. Rumble. The clouds above the sky, because of the strong wind produced by the violent explosion, gave a hole in the sky. And above Kikyo Castle, there was originally thick smoke and dust. It was also completely blown in the gusty wind of the spiral shuriken exploding. The smoke dissipated, and the sight was clear again. Illustration. The Konoha shinobi above Kikyo Castle have also witnessed this powerful wind-style explosion. Everyone's mouths grew in horror, and their eyes almost protruded from their eye sockets. The scope of this ninjutsu, and the movement produced. It is the most wind-style they have seen so far. Rumble. The explosion caused by the spiral shuriken continued for more than 10 seconds before it gradually subsided. At the center of the explosion, a very large circular pit was formed. See picture brain supplement. Countless smoke and dust diffused out from the hole. The whole scene is like a natural disaster caused by a meteorite falling. Puff through, puff, puff through, puff through. A violent heartbeat sounded from all Sand Shinobi's chest. After they had escaped, their hearts were filled with horror. Quickly report to me the situation. Ebizo grabbed the collar of a sensing ninja, then snarled loudly. With such a large range of ninjutsu, his heart sank to the bottom. Eliminate, disappeared, the chakra fluctuations of 110 people. Sand Shinobi, who was dragged by the collar, answered tremblingly. It was not scared by Ebizo's arrogant expression. It's him, surprised by what he perceives. What? Quote. Ebizo's head was spinning, and one of them almost fell to the ground. Fortunately, it was discovered by the perception ninja, and he was able to hold it back in time. 100 ninjas, if you don't have one, you are gone. Ebizo's heart was dripping blood crazily. He regrets it very much now. If it weren't for making people use ninjutsu, it would blow up the dust in the sky and hinder the sight of myself and others. That kind of ninjutsu thrown from a long distance would definitely not cause such huge casualties. Help the old man go over and see. After a few heavy breaths, Ebizo eased a little. He wants to go and see the Sand Shinobi who sacrificed because of their own mistakes. Supported by the perception ninja, Ebizo staggered towards the cave. But when I walked to the edge of the hole, what corpse was seen there? The corpse was chopped into pieces by countless wind blades long ago, and I don't know where it was blown. Only a trace of blood left in the air. It proved that they were indeed killed here. Heartache, unable to breathe. Ebizo, who was already very old, almost fainted. No corpses. How to deal with the families of the deceased after the war. Master Ebizo, that's the one. This wind-style ninjutsu, he sent it out. Just when Ebizo was sad, the perception ninja suddenly reminded him loudly. At this time, the smoke and dust that filled the sky above Kikyo Castle had been blown away. Therefore, Kikyo Castle has reappeared. At this moment, a figure was standing on the wall of Kikyo Castle. But because the distance is still a little far away, only a vague figure can be seen. Go, meet them. Looking up at the direction of Kikyo Castle, Ebizo gritted his teeth and said. Then he ordered Sand Shinobi's team to spread around. At this moment, he knew that Konoha's ninja had such a large-scale long-range ninja, he didn't dare to let the team be so concentrated anymore. The enemy has been annihilated, more than 100 people. Illustration. On the castle tower of Kikyo Castle, a Konoha perceptive ninja reported loudly to Yuichi Mahong. And thorns and thorns and. After the scene fell into silence for a second, bursts of noise and cheers came through. Everyone looked at the figure above the city pier with marvel and admiration. Now, he is undoubtedly the most dazzling light on the battlefield. Kushina also looked at Zhaojian with admiration. And there was a different look in her eyes. Ding! Congratulations to the master for killing 110 enemies and gaining 6,078 prestige points. The system prompt in his head sounded, awakening Zhaojian. He was also stunned before. Because he didn't expect that he would be able to solve more than 100 enemies at once. But I thought about it a little bit. He immediately understood it. The sand and dust that covered the earth before, should have blocked the sight of Sand Shinobi. As a result, they did not discover ninjutsu the first time and lost the best time to dodge. Thinking of this, Zhaojian was also secretly happy. It is estimated that these sand shinobi did not expect it. The dust they blow over will eventually cause them to pay a heavy price. Sand shinobi are here. Concentrate all of your attention. At this moment, Tari was really red, who saw Sand Shinobi coming again, and loudly reminded his companions to cheer up. And Sand Shinobi quickly bypassed both sides of the round hole, and headed towards Kikyo Castle again. But their lineup at the moment. But it is much more scattered than before. Pata pata pata. After Sand Shinobi's team approached, the sound of footsteps also spread over Kikyo Castle. Although they were wiped out by Zhaojian more than 100 people, they still have more than 900 people left. Therefore, the difference in the number of people between the two sides is still not much different from before. After all, 100 and 1000, and 100 and 900. The difficulty is still the same. Ding. A hostile, fearful of the owner, prestige +1. Ding. A hostile, fearful of the owner, prestige +1. Ding. 631 hostile, fearful of the owner, prestige +631. After the Sand Shinobi approached Kikyo Castle, they stopped tens of meters away. At this distance, both sides can clearly see each other's face. So Zhaojian immediately reaped another wave of enemy fear, and gave himself a loss of prestige. Master Ebizo, this is him, he is Baiyun Zhaojian. Previously, Zhaojian changed into a samurai suit because of the long distance, so Guiji did not recognize Zhaojian the first time. At this moment, after the soldiers came to the city, he suddenly found out. The person standing on the city wall is yesterday's Baiyun Zhaojian. So he quickly reported to Ebizo. He was yesterday, Baiyun Zhaojian who slaughtered you. Hearing Guiji's report, Ebizo also looked at him solemnly. Yes, it is. Although he changed his clothes, I can recognize him when he turns to ashes. Guiji's voice trembled slightly, but what I said is beyond doubt. After being confirmed again, Ebizo turned his solemn gaze to Zhaojian. Unexpectedly, Konoha had such a genius. Illustration. Not only the kendo power is powerful, but even the ninjutsu is so exaggerated. But since you dare to ask 100 people to guard the city, then I will let you all be buried with Sand Shinobi. Looking at Zhaojian in a samurai costume, standing on the city wall, Ebizo said viciously in his heart. Konoha's swearing ceremony. Third Hokage Sarutobi Hiruzen is making arrangements for war. Behind him are a group of high-level Konoha and the patriarchs of major families. And in front of him, there were densely packed, full of Konoha shinobi who were preparing to go on an expedition. The number is as large as 6,000. However, these 6,000 people were divided into 4 teams. There are 3 teams, each with a number of 1,000. They need to garrison the borders of the 3 countries of earth, thunder and water respectively. Purpose. It was to prevent Konoha and Sand Shinobi from being attacked from behind when they were fighting. And another team of 3,000 people. The purpose of their trip is naturally to meet Tsunagaku. The leader at the forefront of this team is Leng-kun Orochimaru, one of Konoha Sannin. 353, Lord 3rd Generation, Kikyo Castle Express. Just as Sarutobi Hiruzen was making pre-war arrangements, a voice that pulled the old man sounded from a distance. I saw a hurried figure, rushing over out of breath. He is the Konoha shinobi who was sent by Tari to be so popular overnight to ask for help. 3rd Generation Lord Kikyo Castle Express. After the help-seeking ninja ran to the side of 3rd Generation, he quickly handed out the information in his hand. Hearing that the information came from Kikyo Castle, 3rd Generation naturally did not dare to neglect it in the slightest. So he grabbed the information of the ninja for help, and then opened it directly and quickly read it. The first sentence of the intelligence is that the 200-man advance team of Tsunagaku has attacked. I thought that Kikyo Castle had only 100 defenders. The complexion of 3rd Generation suddenly became more solemn. However, when his gaze shifted to the second sentence of intelligence, he was suddenly stunned. The Tsunagaku advance team was defeated, killed 173 people, and the Tsunagaku advance team was actually defeated by Zhaojian and Kushina. Sarutobi Hiruzen, who was relieved, quickly looked down with a look of surprise. And below, it is to record the battle of this battle. Kushina kills 12 enemies. Baiyun Zhaojian killed the enemy, 161 people. After watching the battle and Zhaojian's number of enemies, third generation was shocked again. It seems that I still underestimated Zhaojian's strength before. Because in his cognition, Konoha at this time can achieve this level, and it happens to be only one hand. Teacher, what happened to Kikyo Castle? Orochimaru, who was in front of the 3,000-man team, asked with some confusion. He had heard that it was the Kikyo City emergency report before, but he thought that Kikyo Castle might be in danger. But the expression of third generation turned solemn, suspicious, and shocked. This made him a little confused. After hearing Orochimaru's question, the teams behind Orochimaru gathered their sights to third generation. After all, the destination they are going to now is Kikyo Castle. So they also want to know information about Kikyo Castle. Call, spit out a sigh of breath. Third generation only revealed the content of the information. Because this is not only an urgent report, but also a good news. Nani, Sunagaku's 200-man advance team came and was defeated by the enemy, 173 people. Baiyun Zhaojian killed the enemy personally, 161 people. This Baiyun Zhaojian, is it the man who fought against Uchiha some time ago? After third generation finished the information on Kikyo Castle, all the Konoha shinobi who were about to go to the battle screamed in exclamation. Even Orochimaru, who was at the front of the team, had a shocked expression at this time. When Zhaojian's Chi and Uchiha were in a quarrel, he naturally heard Zhaojian's name. But at that time in his heart, Zhaojian is also an elite Jonin, or just reaching the cage level threshold. However, he didn't expect that he could achieve one enemy and 100. Doesn't this prove that his strength is at the same level as Sannin himself? That guy seems to be in the same class as Jiraiya's disciple, right? I didn't expect them to. There are actually two such powerful geniuses. Orochimaru was shocked inside, because when he was at the age of Zhaojian and Minato, he definitely did not have such a strong strength. The elders and patriarchs behind Sarutobi Hiruzen were also shocked. However, there is a person who is secretly smiling zero. That is the great elder of Uchiha. Because the stronger Zhaojian's strength, the more insignificant Uchiha's loss of face before. See, Uchiha's 7 enemies are defeated. It's not that Uchiha is weak, is it? But my future grandson-in-law is too strong. Great elder Uchiha thought about it happily. He now truly feels that introducing his granddaughter to Zhaojian is an extremely wise choice. Comical. Sunagaku advance force was defeated by intelligence. While shocking Zhaojian's strength, the Konoha shinobi in front of them were also a little eager to test their hands. Although no one likes war, but it is undeniable. Every time a war breaks out, it will be accompanied by many opportunities for meritorious service and fame. As if feeling their state of mind at the moment, third generation didn't tremble much anymore. Now that Sunagaku's advance team has arrived, then it proves that the follow-up troops have already followed behind. Therefore, time is also very urgent at this moment. Finally, after talking about Konoha's will of fire, with a big wave of third generation's hand, the 4 teams simultaneously moved towards their destinations. Above the tower of Kikyo Castle, it turned out to be Ebizo-sama from Sunagaku. Your old age is so old, not in Sunagaku to enjoy the good fortune, and travel all the way to our country of fire, what is the point? Tari Junhong pretended to be ignorant, and asked with some doubts. Although the cause of the war broke out, both sides already knew well. And they are ready to stick to the determination of Kikyo Castle. But if it can delay some time, of course it is the best. Do you think the old man doesn't know what you are hitting? Ebizo responded to Yuri Junhong, and then turned his gaze to Zhaojian again. This person is very dangerous and must be removed at this time. If you wait for Konoha's reinforcements to arrive, it will be difficult to kill him at that time. Thinking of this, Ebizo slowly raised his arm. When Ebizo raised his arm, all the Sand Shinobi's eyes focused on him. At this moment, Sand Shinobi's attention began to become highly concentrated. Siege war, just waiting for Ebizo's command. Ebizo raised his arm and stared at Zhaojian, looking motionless for a long time. During this process, the Konoha shinobi above Kikyo Castle began to feel the pressure getting heavier and heavier. And Sand Shinobi's morale became more and more condensed in this process. The war hasn't started. Ebizo gave the Konoha shinobi first a psychological war. Obviously, he is familiar with the way of using soldiers. Zhaojian also immediately noticed the emotions of the Konoha shinobi. However, the outbreak of the battle at this moment was a matter of a moment. It's not suitable anymore, let's say some more motivational words. Stepping on Kikyo Castle, Sunagaku's aura, under Ebizo's silence, was raised to a critical point. Then his big hand suddenly waved forward. The order to siege was given. FK, stepping on Kikyo Castle, Sunagaku's momentum, under Ebizo's wave, seemed to have found an outlet for catharsis. Oh 2. Countless sand shinobi roared and roared. He rushed towards Kikyo Castle. Death to defend Kikyo Castle. Yuri was really red above Kikyo Castle, and also roared when sand shinobi rushed up. Before the arrival of sand shinobi's troops, all Konoha shinobi men have prepared all kinds of combat weapons long ago. Kunai, shuriken, detonating talisman, and even bow and crossbow. In an instant, they were taken out of the storage roll. Wind-style spiral shuriken. Look at the sand shinobi who are coming straight up like a rainbow. Zhaojian frustrated again and sent his shuriken. With the chakra volume of his whirlpool physique, this kind of ninjutsu was frustrated and there was no big problem. Na la la. Seeing the ninjutsu in Zhaojian's hand, the sand shinobi's attacking pace was involuntarily frustrated. Before this, the ninjutsu that killed more than 100 of their compatriots. Obviously, they have a little psychological shadow in their hearts. The offensive team, distract me. Ebizo's voice sounded from behind the sand shinobi. He didn't expect that ninjutsu with such a powerful force could be used so easily. Master Ebizo, you should go back a little bit. Seeing the spiral shuriken in Zhaojian's hand, Yi Kang solemnly warned. Although he can clearly see the opponent's ninjutsu at this moment. But below this distance, if the other party drops ninjutsu, still very dangerous. So, I'll beg you. The command of the former army was handed over to Yi Kang. Then Ebizo stepped back under the protection of several guards. He is not a combatant, and it is understandable to command in the rear. Wind-style spiral shuriken. What? Seeing sand shinobi's distance again, Zhaojian frowned. Then he threw the spiral shuriken to the densest place of sand shinobi. Spread, anxiously shouted loudly, one after another from the siege team. The sand shinobi in front of the spiral shuriken quickly fled to all directions. Rumble. After flying 6 or 70 meters away, the spiral shuriken exploded suddenly. The mushroom cloud rises again. Another 100-meter pit appeared. Ding. Congratulations to the master. Kill 17 enemies and gain 901 prestige points. The system prompt in his mind made Zhaojian a little helpless. This ninjutsu cannot be thrown too close, because it will affect Kikyo Castle. And because the sand shinobi were prepared too far, they were mostly avoided. Therefore, it is indeed a bit tasteless when used to defend the city at this time. Come on. Just as the spiral shuriken exploded, some sand shinobi have rushed to the bottom of the city wall. Then he stepped directly on the wall and rushed up like a flat ground. Fight back. Tari Junhong's roar sounded. Various shurikens, kunai, and detonating talisman bows and arrows were shot down like raindrops. A dozen sand shinobi who did not dodge in time immediately fell off the wall. However, there were still many people who escaped the attack and continued to rush up. The unequal number of people. Konoha fell into a panic at the moment of the fight. The target of the attack has also become even more deviated. Chang. Zhaojian, who couldn't stand it, drew his sword directly. Armament hockey and chakra, cross-wrapped around the body of the Chu Shui sword at the same time. Rumble. A slash of 20 meters high. On the wall next to Kikyo Castle, he roared out suddenly. The sand shinobi who were impacting upwards were all immediately submerged under the slash. Over 30 sand shinobi who did not dodge in time immediately contributed a wave of prestige to Zhaojian. Master Zhaojian. Master Zhaojian is mighty. A wave of sand shinobi's offense was brushed off, allowing the Konoha shinobi players to relax. And for the first time witnessed Zhaojian's slash. It also made them cheer and shout. Although the real commander of Kikyo Castle is Yuri Mahong. But at this moment, Zhaojian is obviously the backbone of their hearts. Only a strong like Zhaojian can bring them a sense of security in the present. Guard Kikyo Castle. Zhaojian raised his knife and shouted. then turned to look at Kushina, and jumped directly off the wall. Is this really a slash? Ebizo, who was behind the sand shinobi, was also shocked by Zhaojian's slash. I heard from intelligence and witnessed it with my own eyes. In terms of shock, it is not a level at all. Yi Kang, commanded by the former army, also had the same shocked expression. Zhaojian's slash completely subverted her perception. Chong, rumbling. Zhaojian, who jumped from Kikyo Castle. At the moment of landing, he once again swung a new horizontal strike with all his strength. The soil on the ground was lifted by a layer. The slash was like a sea wave, rushing straight towards the sand shinobi. Ah, 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 where to brush? The sound of breaking through the air sounded one after another, and the sand shinobi in front of Zhaojian were quickly evading trial. No one of them dared to stop such a terrifying slash. So dodge is the best choice. List. Seeing more than a dozen people jumping high in order to avoid the slash, Zhaojian rushed up the moment he was possessed. He has long used the Squid Girl bracelet to lose 3 times his weight. So his current speed is as fast as a cheetah. Puff, puff, puff. Blood is floating in the air. Before a dozen sand shinobi landed, they were killed one by Zhaojian. The movements are clean and neat, without a trace of excess. And it does not seem violent at all. The splattered blood still has a poignant feeling. Wind style. Wind style, 1,000 faces of wind. Wind style, 1,000 faces of wind. The explosion sounded from the left and right. Thousands of small wind blades, like torrential rain pear blossom needles, shot at Zhaojian all over the world. Bang! The sound seemed to have broken through the sound barrier. Zhaojian bent over and slammed on the ground, and rushed out of this area in an instant. The speed was so fast that all nearby sand shinobi were dumbfounded. Bang 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 bang. A burst of blasting sounded from where Zhaojian had left. It seemed like a machine gun was shooting. Blink time. The ground becomes riddled with holes, like a hornet's nest. Because the system task is to protect Kikyo City, Zhaojian did not stay in love. Wherever the city wall encountered a crisis, he would rush to help any location. This is the purpose of his initiative. Fast speed. Looking at Zhaojian like a phantom, he shuttled on the front line wantonly. Ebizo suddenly felt his head go big. At such a fast speed, it is obviously very difficult for the attack to hit him. Puff puff. Speed is like a ghost. Zhaojian is reaping life mercilessly. Every sand shinobi who was approached by him had only one end. That would be killed by a single blow. Some have their heads severed. Some have been cut through the heart. What's more, they were directly split in half, or cut in half on the spot. The guards above Kikyo City also felt that the pressure was greatly reduced because Zhaojian was blocking the enemy below. Their movements have also become more orderly from the previous panic. At this time, the counterattack appeared more fierce and precise. How to deal with it? How to deal with it? Zhaojian relied on the speed that no one could match, rushing on the front line to massacre. For a while, Ebizo's angry teeth tickled, and he became a little anxious. But after thinking for a while, he didn't think of any effective and feasible way. Because Zhaojian's speed is so fast, it is difficult to get him with ordinary ninjutsu attacks. The only plan at present seems to be to increase the intensity of the siege so that Zhaojian, who is rescuing everywhere, will exhaust his physical strength. Thinking of this, Ebizo could only issue this method of death. Strike the city with all its strength. After the order was issued to Yi Kang. Yi Kang, commanded by the Chinese army, suddenly sang softly. Seeing Baiyun Zhaojian running around to rescue, she also understood what Ebizo-sama meant. Charge, attack the city with all your strength. Hearing Yi Kang's order, some sand shinobi who wanted to encircle Zhaojian suddenly changed their direction and rushed towards Kikyo City. Whoops whoops whoops. Boom 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 boom. Countless kunai and shurikens also have detonating charms. As if he didn't need money, he shot down from the tower. The bottom of the tower was bombed with roars and gunpowder. Wind style feng ki technique. Wind style fa feng technique. Fire style shuriken technique. The sand shinobi in the back bombarded the city wall with ninjutsu. He immediately suppressed the Konoha defenders who were attacking and hid behind the wall. The sand shinobi under the city wall quickly rushed to the tower while they avoided the ninjutsu gap. So close combat broke out on the tower. Adamantine ceiling chains. Several chakra chains shot from behind Kushina. Several sand shinobi, who had just reached the tower, were directly pierced by the chain and fell off the tower again. However, more sand shinobi also surged up from the walls. Flying sword. Rumbling. Seeing the safety above Kikyo Castle, Zhaojian did not dare to save his energy and fight attrition. Under the vigorous swing, an arc-shaped slash with a length of more than 10 meters. Quickly and at a low altitude, he glided out along the city wall. Careful, hurry up. Seeing Zhaojian slapped another terrifying slash. Sand shinobi suddenly howled and reminded each other. Rumble. The autumn wind sweeps the fallen leaves in general. 30 or 40 people did not dodge in time. He was swallowed by the slash in an instant and flew out. No, if this continues, Kikyo Castle will no longer be able to defend. Seeing that after evading the slash, the sand shinobi still rushed towards the tower. Zhaojian's head also spun quickly. Correct. Tune the tiger away from the mountain. Surround Wei and save Zhao. Capture the thieves and the king. With a flash of inspiration in his mind, Zhaojian cast his gaze behind sand shinobi. Ebizo pays fate. Zhaojian pulled his throat to the fullest. The sound instantly spread over the entire battlefield. As predicted, sand shinobi who were attacking the city. Subconsciously, he collectively turned his sights. Sure enough, Shenel felt this scene with his heart, and Zhaojian was overjoyed. Indeed, bang. In order to create greater momentum, Zhaojian smashed Good Li Jiao directly on the ground with one foot and burst into the back of sand shinobi. Master Ebizo, quick, save Master Ebizo. Seeing this scene, sand shinobi who was attacking the city was also panicked. Sand shinobi, who had not climbed the city wall, turned around and chased Zhaojian. At this time, there were only dozens of guards beside Ebizo. If the 100 people Zhaojian were killed to the rear, does Ebizo still have a life? There is no guarantee. Master Ebizo, go back. The sand shinobi who guarded Ebizo were also taken aback. They had seen Zhaojian's strength before, and they were still fortunate in secret. Fortunately, I and others are safe in the rear. Unexpectedly, the killing god turned his head and killed them. Ebizo was also shocked by Zhaojian's operation. After turning his head to look at the number of people next to him, he also quickly began to evacuate to the rear. Puffy, 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 swing the knife, swing the knife, swing the knife. Zhaojian went from below the tower to the rear of sand shinobi. Countless sand shinobi came to block. However, there are no exceptions. All those who were blocking were all beheaded by Zhaojian. And it was very cruel, and was directly split into two halves. Countless broken corpses were scattered on the ground. Blood is permeated. In the rear of Zhaojian, a bloody road was formed. Quick, quick, quick. Seeing that Zhaojian was about to reach the position of the middle army, the sand shinobi army who had abandoned the siege of the city were all anxious and shocked in their hearts. If Zhaojian breaks through the army, so at his speed, it was only a matter of time to catch up with Ebizo, who was fleeing behind. Quick, use combined ninjutsu. Stop him for me. Seeing Zhaojian rushing like a demon, Yi Kang was also startled. After reacting, she hurriedly shouted to the sand shinobi on the left and right. Ebizo is not only the commander-in-chief of this team. He is still like a military commander in Sand Shinobi Village. If he were to be in the 1,000-member brigade, Zhaojian would be forcibly beheaded. So was a huge blow to Sunagaker. Shoo 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 shoo. Click, click, click. Sand Shinobi, the Chinese army tens of meters, quickly stood in a row. Between the two hands flapping, the surgical seal was formed quickly. Wind style Fa Feng. Fire style Fire Bomb. Wind style God Follow. Fire style Dragon Fire Technique. Rumble. Fire takes advantage of the wind. The wind helps the fire. Under the combined ninjutsu of dozens of sand shinobi, the original C-level and B-level ninjutsu immediately caused a qualitative change. The flame spread directly tens of meters high and hundreds of meters wide. Then the sky was overwhelmed like a tsunami, and it rushed towards Zhaojian. Flee. The sand shinobi who intercepted him near Zhaojian also witnessed the fire. So they reminded each other and ran forward. Ninjutsu with such a wide range also enveloped them. If you don't want to die, the only way is to retreat towards Kikyo Castle. The departure of Sand Shinobi also left Zhaojian with no one to stop him. Uchiha Madara's arrogance is extinguished, but that's all. Looking at this super exaggerated fire style, Zhaojian was filled with emotion. But he did not flinch. Instead, he slammed on the ground. Rushed towards the sea of fire like a tsunami. Chong. Approaching the sea of fire, Zhaojian swung out abruptly. A slash of 20 meters high and 5 or 6 meters wide roared at the surging fire waves. Rumble. The attacks of the two sides collided together in an instant. One side is the monstrous sea of fire, and the other side is a roaring slash. Although the range of tricks varies greatly. However, Zhaojian's slashing slashed easily from the sea of flames in an instant. A feasible path appeared in the sea of flames. Indeed, Zhaojian stepped on the ground suddenly and shot out. Before the sea of fire recovered, he followed the slash and fell into the sea of fire. Such a large area, should it be blocked, right? Yi Kang's eyes stared at the sea of flames ahead. As long as Zhaojian can be blocked, then the front army can withdraw back and form a direct encirclement of him. Rumbling. At this time, a roar suddenly sounded in the sea of fire ahead. Immediately afterwards, a slash pierced the sea of fire and screamed at the sand shinobi of the Chinese army. Several sand shinobi who were continuously releasing ninjutsu were instantly submerged under the slash. Call out. Another sound of breaking through the air sounded. After the slash, a figure shuttled over from the flames. Baiyun Zhaojian. The sound of horror came from the sand shinobi's mouth. They did not expect that Zhaojian would forcibly break through the sea of fire ACDA in this way. Puffy, karma. Just when sand shinobi fell into sluggishness, Zhaojian, who rushed out of the fire, beheaded 3 more people in an instant. Disperse. A loud shout came from Yi Kang's mouth. A fireball like a small sun instantly formed above her head. Then he waved his hand suddenly and quickly smashed towards Zhaojian's position. Scorch style is overwhelming. Yi Kang's stern shout sounded, and the sand shinobi of the Chinese army retreated to the rear in horror. Obviously they are very clear about the power of Yi Kang's move. Armed color emission. Another knife, after beheading a sand shinobi. When Zhaojian looked up, he also saw an orange-red fireball smashed down. The instinctive threat made him dare not neglect. Armament haki surged out of his body. The invisible armor instantly covered the surface of his body. At this moment, the fireball that fell in front of his eyes also exploded at the same time. Boom. The range of 20 to 30 meters. All the water was evaporated by the explosion of the fireball in an instant. The trees and weeds fell directly into wither. Even sand shinobi, who was killed by Zhaojian, quickly dried up. In just a few breaths, it became a corpse with no water. Chi. Water vapor was everywhere. The line of sight was blocked. Successful. The Chinese army sand shinobi who escaped a disaster. Collectively, he looked at the place where Zhaojian was. But because of the heavy mist at this moment, they couldn't see anything clearly. What a great ninjutsu! Just when the Chinese army sand shinobi held their breath, Zhaojian's uncompromising sound of appreciation also rang out from the mist. Although armament haki covered the whole body, the moment the fireball exploded just now, on the surface of his skin, he felt a scorching sensation. Unscathed, the mist gradually dissipated, and Zhaojian, who came out of his body, was shocked to the sand shinobi. And Yi Kang, who released this ninjutsu, was also shocked by the result on the spot. The ground was scorched to black. Trees and weeds were also burned to charcoal. But Zhaojian has nothing to do except for the reddish skin. Go to hell. He glanced at the mummy under Zhaojian's feet. A sand shinobi couldn't accept this result, so he rushed up with kunai directly. Clang. Jin Tijiao's voice suddenly sounded. Sand shinobi pierced Zhaojian's heart, and was blocked by an invisible barrier at a distance of a few centimeters from the outside of his body. What is this? Sand shinobi opened his eyes wide and raised his head stiffly. I saw Zhaojian also looking at him indifferently. Pattern. Zhaojian grabbed sand shinobi's arm with his left hand, and raised his right hand holding the knife high. Puff. In sand shinobi's horrified eyes, the butcher knife in Zhaojian's hand suddenly fell. Directly from sand shinobi's left shoulder to right rib, he cut him in half with a knife. The blood is dripping and the internal organs are pouring. The red blood splashed all over the ground under Zhaojian's feet in an instant. The fishy wind began to spread around and spread out. Come on, fight. Zhaojian opened his arms sharply. holding a bloody butcher knife in his right hand, and holding Sand Shinobi's upper body in his left hand. The fierce and bloodthirsty breath suddenly burst out of him. Boom! The Sand Shinobi who were present all felt their scalp tingling for a while. Zhaojian at this moment is too bloody, too violent, and too cruel. Pata, pata, pata. Na lele. At this moment, bursts of rushing footsteps and breaking through the air came to mind one after another. Returning to defense from Kikyo Castle, Sand Shinobi's former soldiers all stepped over the ground that was hot by the fire and drove over. And quickly, Zhaojian was surrounded by them. Come on, fight together. Sensing the Sand Shinobi behind him, Zhaojian turned his head. A bloodthirsty smile bloomed on his mouth, making the scene at the moment even more frightening. Guru, guru, guru. The sound of drooling sounded one after another around. The Sand Shinobi who had just caught up were also shocked by Zhaojian's picture at the moment. Master Ebizo, no, don't run away, the other party is surrounded. The guard who was protecting Ebizo, after seeing Zhaojian being surrounded, quickly reported to Ebizo in the team. The scene where Zhaojian killed all the way to the Chinese army just now also frightened him. So at this moment, in addition to rejoicing, there was a slight tremor in his voice. Whirring, whirring. Hearing the words of the guard, Ebizo also gasped and stopped. After turning around, he realized that Baiyun Zhaojian was already surrounded. Captain True Red, Master Zhaojian is surrounded, shall we go down and support? On the castle tower of Kikyo Castle, Sand Shinobi that rushed up has been completely cleaned up. Seeing Zhaojian caught in a siege, a Konoha defender asked anxiously. No, don't go down. If we go to support at this moment, it would be a disservice to Zhaojian. And at his previous speed, if he wants to break out, those Sand Shinobi will absolutely not be able to stop him. Looking at the anxious companions, Yuri Junhong hurriedly stopped loudly. Because Zhaojian specially reminded him before. Let them stay on guard in Kikyo Castle no matter what. Since Zhaojian gave such an explanation, Tari Junhong naturally chose to believe him. After all, this guard war. It's all because Zhaojian is 30% sure. All Yuri Junhong chose to lead the team to stay. Don't have anything wrong, otherwise, I won't keep my promise and I'm going to rush down. Kushina held a bean tightly in front of her chest with both hands. With very worried eyes, he looked at Zhaojian who was surrounded in the distance. Don't worry, there won't be any trouble with the captain. Kakashi also stared at the battlefield in the distance, but he trusted Zhaojian more. Since he was assigned to lead the team for Zhaojian, they have experienced several major threats. But every time, it was undoubtedly resolved by Zhaojian. Therefore, he believes that teacher Zhaojian at this moment can also help him. And he also felt that Tari Junhong's previous words were correct. The teacher can't beat, he can break through with speed. If you wait for someone to come to support, that really became a drag on the teacher. Why are you scared? Looking at the nearly 700 people at the scene, I was shocked by myself. The smile on Zhaojian's mouth grew wider. FK me, kill him. Seeing Zhaojian being surrounded by groups and daring to be so arrogant, Yi Kang suddenly shouted and gave the order to besiege. Kill. Zhaojian's arrogant posture also annoyed the surrounding Sand Shinobi. After Yi Kang gave an order, countless Sand Shinobi flocked to Zhaojian from all directions. The scene was ignited in an instant. Boom. Zhaojian took a sharp step forward. The half-corpse on his left hand was also thrown forward abruptly. A Sand Shinobi who rushed up was hit to the ground in an instant because he couldn't dodge. Zhaojian, who was then rushed up by a blast, pierced his heart with a knife. Shoo shoo shoo. At this moment, a dozen kunai and shurikens shot towards Zhaojian from all around. I immediately surrounded him. However, Zhaojian paid no attention to it, and rushed out directly to the next Sand Shinobi. Ding ding dang 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 dang. The shuriken shot Zhaojian. Suddenly, there was a burst of golden and iron cross-talking sounds. Without exception, Armament Hockey, who was all blocked by his physical appearance, blocked all of them. Sand Shinobi who witnessed this scene were all very surprised. Because they obviously didn't see any chakra on Zhaojian. But the shurikens that shot at him were all blocked from the body. Just like Zhaojian's body, wearing some invisible armor. This made them confused for a while. Chong. Rumble. After beheading an enemy again, Zhaojian charged up and turned around, and suddenly slammed a knife backwards. A slash of more than 10 meters high instantly roared to the rear. The sand shinobi who rushed up suddenly turned on their backs. Scream, one after another, endlessly. Wind-style great breakthrough. Right now, a sand shinobi suddenly opened his mouth. A tornado rushed out to Zhaojian instantly. He obviously made a seal a long time ago, and has been waiting for a long time. Boom, just slammed a slash. Zhaojian, who was in the neutral position, was immediately knocked out. But after a few more rolls on the ground, he instantly got up with another carp. Obviously armament haki protected him very well. Chapter 91. Kang. Zhaojian, who stood up, slapped another slash in an instant. However, because there is no charge, all slashes are only a normal length of 5 or 6 meters. But even so, the sand shinobi who were besieged were shocked enough. Earth style. Earth flow wall. Earth style earth flow wall. Boom, 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 boom. Several sand shinobi patted the ground with both hands at the same time, and several soil walls rose up instantly. Just then, Zhaojian's slash also screamed. Rumble. Puff puff. The earth wall was instantly destroyed, and the sand shinobi behind the earth wall. The slashes that were also screamed, all flew out. Wind-style vacuum sphere. Wind-style gale palm. Sand shinobi's attacks were everywhere. Zhaojian, who did not dodge in time for 357, was knocked into the air again. But when he got up again, he was still unscathed, and his life was harder than Xiaoqiang. What's going on? Still unscathed. Quote exclamation mark exclamation mark exclamation mark quote. Quote question mark question mark question mark. Quote. The sand shinobi were horrified. Zhaojian was hit several times, all unscathed. This inexplicable defensive power, how can you wait for others to fight? Rumbling. Zhaojian, who stood up, slashed again. A dozen more sand shinobi were beheaded on the spot. Scorch style over steaming. Zhaosheng sounded. Several orange-red fireballs quickly flew towards Zhaojian. However, Zhaojian noticed it, and flew out one by one with a knife face. Several sand shinobi beside him were instantly hit by a fireball. It became a corpse on the spot. Boom, boom, boom. Puffy, puff puff. Zhaojian was surrounded by sand shinobi, rushing from left to right. The black knife chushui in his hand was constantly waving quickly. For a time, stumped limbs and broken arms, and minced meat flying around. The ground was splashed with red blood over and over again. The bloody aura that permeated Sunagaku's encirclement became thicker and thicker. Oh Ebizo-sama, if you continue to besiege like this, can you really kill Baiyun Zhaojian? Watching Zhaojian, who was knocked down again and again, got up again and again to carry out slaughter. The sand shinobi who protected Ebizo off the court were all stunned. Zhaojian at this moment, give them a feeling of invincibility like a demon. Illustration. No matter what, I'm tired today, and I will tire him to death. Ebizo's voice was full of solemnity, and the gloomy color on his face was so strong that it was almost dripping with water. Zhaojian's strength completely exceeded his imagination. Ultimate speed, strong defense, plus there is no one in the kendo. This makes Zhaojian at this moment like a perfect killing machine. If Zhaojian cannot be left here today, then wait for Konoha reinforcements to arrive. If you still want to kill him, it would be as difficult as the sky. So this is Sunagaku, the only chance to get rid of a serious worry. The killing in the field continued. Put armament haki on the outside of the body for a long time. This caused Zhaojian's physical energy to be consumed very quickly. But he couldn't help it. Because under so many siege, armament haki is the only way he can protect himself. As more and more sand shinobi fell, the blood flowing on the ground made the ground wet. The smell of blood in the air. It's already rich to an indescribable level. Sand shinobi were also slaughtered by Zhaojian, making their eyes red. Everyone at this moment is plunged into the madness of one after another. No fear, no fear. At the moment they just wanted to swarm up and kill Zhaojian on the spot. Kang, puff puff. Zhaojian, who had been wielding a knife to kill people, also began to become numb. The killing was too heavy, and the aura on his body became more and more violent. Whirring whirring. As time went by, Zhaojian, who was overexhausted, began to gasp like a cow. Armament haki, which covers the outside of the body, is also due to lack of physical fitness. And it started to become very unstable. As a last resort, Zhaojian ate himself at this moment. The only one of the two is a fairy bean. The stamina that disappeared was full in an instant. Zhaojian's fatigue was restored to its best condition again. Even the room anger he had generated because of the excessive killings was a little clearer at this moment. Rumble. Zhaojian, who had recovered, swung his knife abruptly again. A slash of 20 meters long, roared out laterally. Get out of the way. Shout out loudly from Sand Shinobi's team. Countless Sand Shinobi hurriedly dodged. But with such a big new strike, how could it be possible to dodge so easily? So there were still more than 24 people who were swallowed by the slash in an instant. What did he eat just now? The change of Zhaojian immediately caught the attention of Sand Shinobi. Because of Zhaojian just now, they have obviously been dragged into a very tired state. But unexpectedly, he just raised his head and ate something. His physical strength was instantly restored to its pre-war state. This makes their previous efforts and sacrifices all become meaningless. Is it a new type of Liang pill? Illustration. Yikang, on the outskirts of the battlefield, was also very confused. Because her ninjutsu is not harmful to Zhaojian, it is more likely to hurt her companions. So Yikang has retreated to the outside of the field and started fighting off the field. Increase the siege for me, don't let him stop. Because I don't know if there are any restrictions on what Zhaojian uses. Therefore, Yikang can only follow the original plan and prepare to bring down Zhaojian again. You guys too, go and join me in the siege. Ebizo behind Sand Shinobi, originally seeing Zhaojian's physical strength getting less and less, was quite happy. Because of this foreshadowing, they are finally about to kill him. But suddenly, he recovered his strength inexplicably. This made Ebizo almost gush out a mouthful of old blood. Hear Ebizo's order. A group of guards all have some faces. At this moment, Zhaojian, who was like a god, made them cringe. Why, do you want me to say it again? Seeing that the guards were timid, Ebizo suddenly shouted angrily. This made them nodded helplessly, and then rushed towards the battlefield. The fighting continued until the evening, and the setting sun was like blood. The sky seems to have been killed. In the middle of the journey, Zhaojian ate the last fairy bean. He returned to his peak state again in all aspects of functions, killing the Sand Shinobi all with fear. At this time, the 700 Sand Shinobi who originally surrounded Zhaojian has been killed until only more than 300 people remain. The blood on the ground formed a terrible sticky creek. The smell of blood in the air can no longer be described as rich. It's just thick. Every time everyone breathed, it was very uncomfortable because of the heavy blood. Puff puff. The blood is still flying wine, and the battle is also continuing. Zhaojian panted again. His physical stamina dries up again. Armament hockey outside the body also shrank above the body surface again. The blood soaked all his samurai robes and dyed them red. And still dripping blood. It's as if it was fished out of blood. The continued killing has also aggravated Zhaojian's slaying and brutal atmosphere. Coupled with the heavy redness of his suit, it makes him feel like a ghost crawling out of hell at this moment. Ah, patter. A Sand Shinobi was holding a shinobi sword and rushed towards Zhaojian with a roar. The moment Shinobu swung it, Zhaojian's left hand was caught in his hand. But at this moment, the Sand Shinobi around the encircled circle suddenly fell silent because of this scene. Because Zhaojian's palm, there was actually a trace of blood flowing down the shinobi sword. Is he hurt? I am not mistaken. It seems to be really hurt. Suspicious and uncertain voices came one after another in the mouths of Sand Shinobi around. After confirming that they were not waiting for someone to read it wrong, Sand Shinobi burst into cheers. Although Zhaojian's injury is not serious, it is not even considered an injury. But this detail made the numb Sand Shinobi see hope. This lets them know that Zhaojian is not unkillable. He will be injured, and he will also die. Kill. Chong Na. After reacting, the remaining Sand Shinobi rushed towards Zhaojian excitedly. Puff puff. Zhaojian raised his heavy arm and continued to kill the enemy mercilessly. The violent breath gave him a slight impression of his emotions, which made him fearless and didn't want to leave. He felt that he could continue to kill. No, I'm going to support. Above the tower of Kikyo City, Kushina was a little anxious looking at Zhaojian, who was exhausted but was not retreating. Zhaojian said before that he only has 3 fairy beans. He gave himself one, and in the process of fighting, he regained his strength twice. Then it proves that he has no fairy beans at this moment. Illustration. Wait a minute, I have a plan. Just when Kushina was about to jump off the wall, Tari Junhong quickly stretched out her arm and stopped her. Then, in Kushina's puzzled eyes, she pointed to the back of Sand Shinobi and said, "At this moment, even if we are all out, we are still at a disadvantage in terms of numbers. Since Sand Shinobi's attention is all focused on Zhaojian, why don't we take this opportunity to go directly behind Sand Shinobi and capture Ebizo?" This, Kushina turned to look at Zhaojian who was fighting in the encirclement. Then he raised his head and looked behind Sand Shinobi. Finally gritted his teeth and agreed. It was obviously very difficult to save Zhaojian by entering the encirclement. But if you can sneak around and attack Ebizo, the only a dozen Sand Shinobi left beside him could not withstand the attack of adamantine sealing chains. Seeing Kushina nodded in agreement, Yuri Junhong began to quickly arrange. He kept 2/3 of the defending army, defending the city for his deputy and covering the city wall. He personally led more than 30 people. Together with Kushina, we circled backward from the right side of the battlefield. Because at this time, Sand Shinobi's attention is all focused on the killing in the field. In addition, at the moment the sun is setting, the sky is getting darker. So they hardly give up their efforts. It easily bypassed the battlefield and sneaked to the rear of Sand Shinobi. Ebizo suffers death. Ebizo suffers death. Tari Junhong and others sneaked into the back of Sand Shinobi. In order to relieve some pressure on Zhaojian in the encirclement, they all roared and shouted. The Sand Shinobi who surrounded Zhaojian at the position of the central army turned their heads in horror after hearing the sound from the rear. I saw a team of Konoha Shinobi with more than 30 people, and I didn't know when to bypass them. Ebizo and others rushed to the rear. "Quick, come back to defense." The screaming roar sounded, and the Sand Shinobi who surrounded Zhaojian disappeared in an instant. This made Zhaojian, who was exhausted and panting, his pressure greatly reduced at this time. "Master Ebizo, run away." Sand Shinobi, who was protecting beside Ebizo, yelled at Ebizo loudly while resisting Konoha's attack. But I didn't finish talking. A chakra chain pierced through the body in an instant. Then he was thrown away directly. Kushina was worried about Zhaojian's safety, so naturally she burst out with all her strength. Adamantine sealing chains waved freely beside her. The Sand Shinobi who were guarding Ebizo were quickly killed by her. "My life is over." Seeing the chains rushing to him quickly, Ebizo let out a mournful cry in his heart. I was really taken care of by the fierce battle in the field. Just when Ebizo thought that he would also be penetrated on the spot, the chain that struck him quickly bound his limbs, and then lifted him high into the air. "Don't stop me, my mother, believe it or not, I tore you Sunagakur Sr." Kushina turned back and saw that the Sand Shinobi were still besieging Zhaojian. So the roar like a baby guard roared out of her mouth. "Kill me Ming Wu Wu Wu." Ebizo wants to order Sand Shinobi not to care about himself. We must get rid of Zhaojian's heartache. But he just said a few words. Suddenly, he was tightly wrapped by a chakra chain. Loud warning from Kushina. Sand Shinobi stopped unconsciously. At this moment, in their hearts, they all feel very aggrieved. They fought hundreds of lives. This made Baiyun Zhaojian's physical strength bottom out, and his flaws began to emerge. Finally let them see a glimmer of hope of defeating each other. But I never expected that at this most critical moment. The rear of the team. It was attacked by someone unexpectedly. And Master Ebizo was captured and hung in the air. Hoo. Kushina, Zhaojian, who was caught in the killing, recovered some clarity after hearing Kushina's voice. He raised his head and looked behind Sand Shinobi. I saw Kushina grabbed Ebizo, and he was strapping it in the air with adamantine sealing chains. And there was a disagreement, and he was going to tear him apart on the spot. Pin-cha-cha-cha-cha, bang, Zhaojian reached out and wiped a handful of the squid lady's bracelet. I directly adjusted my weight to the lightest limit. Then gently kicked on the ground again. It broke through the sound barrier in an instant and disappeared directly on the spot. "Nani, what about people?" Sand Shinobi who heard the movement hurriedly turned their heads. But Zhaojian at this time had long since disappeared without a trace. In the rear. At this time, a sand shinobi tremblingly pointed to the rear, his voice full of incredulity. After hearing this, everyone hurriedly turned their heads to look. I saw Zhaojian, who was still in the encirclement. At this moment, he actually crossed a distance of several hundred meters and appeared directly behind the battlefield. Before this guy, he was still hiding his strength. Quote exclamation mark exclamation mark exclamation mark. Quote, all sand shinobi were shocked again by Zhaojian's speed. Originally, his speed was already fast enough. But I didn't expect that the previous speed was not his limit. In the hearts of all sand shinobi, there was a glimmer of hope to destroy Zhaojian. At this moment, he suddenly slapped and fell to the ground. Hope is shattered in an instant. It seems that if people want to leave, they can't keep him waiting for them. Looking at the bloody corpses of the surrounding companions, all sand shinobi felt sad. Boom! Zhaojian broke through the sound barrier in speed. In a flash, I arrived in front of Kushina and others. The squid mother had a bad hand and adjusted her weight to the lightest level. He couldn't control his speed a bit, so he almost flew out. Fortunately, he rotated his broken hand in time, which stopped his weight recovery. Hoo-hoo! 1 second after Zhaojian appeared. The sound of the wind was brought by his speed from behind. A strong bloody aura blew out from behind Zhaojian. The defenders of Kikyo City almost fainted. Morning, Lord Zhaojian. Master Zhaojian. When reacting, all Konoha defenders greeted Zhaojian quickly. They were also shocked by Zhaojian's speed. It seems that Lord Zhaojian will not be in danger at all. A group of Konoha defenders secretly guessed in their hearts. Hoo-hoo, why are you down? Zhaojian took a rough breath, and then asked. Although he has kept his voice as calm as possible. But because the killing was too heavy. The moment he spoke, there was still a violent atmosphere, which invaded them in an instant. Seeing you in danger, we came down. Seeing Zhaojian panting like a cow, Kushina answered with some worry. Then he stretched out his arm and handed back the fairy beans that Zhaojian had given her before. But Zhaojian did not pick it up. Now that I caught Ebizo at this moment, then this battle is already over. So he didn't plan to waste this last precious fairy bean. Now is not the time to speak, let's go back to Kikyo Castle first. Seeing Sand Shinobi catching up, Yuri Junhong spoke. At this moment Zhaojian had already broken out. And they also caught Ebizo. All this time the defense of Kikyo Castle. They can say that they have won a big victory. Go back to Kikyo Castle first. Zhaojian nodded when he heard that Yuri was really red. Just in case Ebizo might wins. Zhaojian then ordered Kushina to cover Ebizo's eyes with a chain. If you don't want Ebizo to die, don't mess with me. Otherwise, it scared me, I might slip one hand and tore the elders of your village in half. Zhaojian and Kushina walked at the front of the line to clear the way. All the sand shinobi who rushed up, after hearing Kushina's warning, suddenly turned their eyes to Yi Kang aggrieved. And Yi Kang is also a slap in the face. But she couldn't help it. For the safety of Ebizo, she could only wave her hand and ordered the sand shinobi to give way. Ming woo 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 ming. Ebizo, who was held high in the air by Kushina, heard Yi Kang's order to give way. Suddenly he was angry and struggling hard. But how old and frail he is, Kushina's opponent. When Kushina thought about it, she immediately stopped him from moving at all. Papa, Papa, Papa. Heavy footsteps hit the ground. The defenders of Konoha Plateaukoden, under the leadership of Zhaojian and Mei Kushina, slowly passed Sand Shinobi's team. They dare not breathe in air, for fear that some accident may happen by accident. But at the moment it was originally a very solemn picture. But because Ebizo was constantly struggling in the air, it makes the scene look a bit weird. Not long after, Zhaojian and his party, under the helpless gaze of Sand Shinobi, Good Li Jiao all entered the interior of Kikyo City. Master Yi Kang, shall we keep our eyes open like this, watching Master Ebizo being captured? Looking at Konoha and his party who disappeared under the city gate, someone in Sand Shinobi asked Yi Kang. They were really frustrated by this battle. More than 600 people were injured or killed. Even the commander of the team was taken away by the enemy. Otherwise, what else can I do? Should we ignore Master Ebizo's life and force them to stay? You are sure, can you keep them? Yi Kang also yelled angrily when he heard some questions from his companion. She is the one who feels the most aggrieved and uncomfortable. But there is no doubt. Ebizo at this moment has become the opponent's bargaining chip in post-war negotiations. After entering Kikyo Castle, Kushina loosened Ebizo. Then he was handed over to Yuri Mahong and detained. After all, he is now a captive of his own side. Kushina accompanied Zhaojian and climbed to the top of the tower again. Countless Konoha shinobi defenders along the way greeted Zhaojian respectfully. And Zhaojian nodded in response. Boom. After the two entered the gate tower of Kikyo City, Zhaojian straightly farted and sat on the ground. After 3 consecutive runs out of energy, he was also a little weak at the moment. It was outside Kikyo City before. He is also holding on, pretending to be okay. In fact, he was almost tired and paralyzed. Zhaojian! Kushina exclaimed, thinking that Zhaojian was injured. So he didn't care about the blood stains on his body. He opened Zhaojian's clothes directly and looked down. Hoo-hoo. However, he just opened Zhaojian's chest coat. Kushina heard a burst of even grunts. Apparently Zhaojian was just asleep. After seeing this, Kushina was a little bit dumbfounded. Unexpectedly, when Zhaojian was out, he would still be so pretentious and unaffected. Unexpectedly, as soon as I entered the door, I fell asleep with exhaustion. Teacher Zhaojian. At this moment, Kakashi also entered the gate tower. Seeing Zhaojian lying on the ground, he suddenly exclaimed. However, Kushina gave a silent gesture to signal to be quiet. Shish, he just fell asleep. Kushina said softly, and Kakashi nodded suddenly. Not long after setting up Ebizo, Yuri Junhong also rushed back. Looking at the thick blood stains on Zhaojian's body, Kushina hesitated. Then he bid farewell to Shiri Junhong, and disappeared above the city gate with Zhaojian on his back. Shuttle quickly on Kikyo Castle. Kushina quickly found a hot spring shop. Then he blushed and stepped into it with Zhaojian on his back. Because the people of Kikyo Castle had already left, there was no one in the hot spring shop at the moment. Kushina took Zhaojian to the hot spring pool, pulled him out, and then began to wash him up. Shen Acda Zhaojian, who slept to death, had no idea. Just when he fell asleep, he actually enjoyed such a beautiful blessing. Has the statistics come out? Above the tower of Kikyo Castle, the sunset was so red that he glanced at the sand shinobi who collected the corpses outside the city, and then turned to ask a perception ninja next to him. It's already out. The sensing ninja nodded, and replied in an incredible way. A total of 650 people were killed in this battle. And Zhaojian Sama's slashing amount of enemies alone is close to 600 people. Hearing the report of Perception Ninja, Yuri Junhong couldn't help but smashed his tongue. Zhaojian's record is really terrifying. The total amount of enemies killed in these 2 days is almost 800. It is estimated that after this war is over, his number of kills will at least break through the 1,000-person level. I don't know what kind of award I received after returning to the village for such a great achievement. At this moment, Tari is really red, and he has some infinite reveries. By the way, pass the good news back to the village. After regaining his senses, Tari Junhong ordered the Perception Ninja. Quote. Quote. The Perception Ninja responded with a happy face and stepped back. This time the defensive battle of Kikyo Castle. Although they are not as great as Zhaojian's achievements. But they also got a good credit. And as one of the people who participated in this battle, he also felt very proud. After the war is over, he can proudly speak to others. I participated in the defensive battle of Kikyo Castle. I have even witnessed Lord Zhaojian fighting in the encirclement of Sand Shinobi. Thinking about this, his heart was full of excitement. Outside of Kikyo Castle, Sand Shinobi have gathered all their companions who died in the battle. Countless corpses and stumps with broken arms are piled up into mountains. The thick blood that had gradually solidified was still falling, ticking down. At this moment, Sand Shinobi's heart is full of sad emotions. A battalion of thousands of people attacked Kikyo City. Not only did it fail to defeat it, but it also killed 2/3 of the people. Even Ebizo, who was the commander, was arrested by the opponent. This makes Sand Shinobi feel hard hit at this moment. Seal it up. Looking at countless corpses, Yi Kang closed his eyes and sighed. This is also the first time she has experienced a war in the ninja world. The corpses of so many companions in front of her also made her feel very uncomfortable. Dozens of sand shinobi sighed, took out the seal scroll and began to seal. With so many corpses, I don't know what the family members of the corpses will cry like when they are brought back to the village. Thinking of this, sand shinobi's hearts are even more confusing. When the sand shinobi sealed the corpse, Hakura moved his eyes to Kikyo Castle. This battle has lost so much. Even Master Ebizo was captured by the opponent. She didn't know how to report to the coming large forces next. I think Ebizo is also the agent of Fengying, Chio's younger brother. Yi Kang felt a moment of worry in his head. He could already predict the appearance of the old lady in a rage. Zhaojian in his sleep dreams of wandering in clouds like Zhaojian. Countless soft fish swam around beside him. Swim around his legs for a while, then swim on his chest again. It made him feel a little itchy, but also a little uncomfortable. The next day, after dawn, Zhaojian woke up leisurely. Maybe it was because he was too tired yesterday, and he slept very securely this time. Oops. As soon as his divine consciousness returned to reality from his dream, Zhaojian was shocked and sweated. I didn't expect that I was still asleep when I was still in the task. But Zhaojian stood up suddenly. Suddenly I noticed something wrong again. Because of myself at the moment. He didn't sleep on Kikyo Castle, but in a strange place. And he is actually wearing a bathrobe. This is where. Zhaojian's head fell into a downtime in an instant. After reacting to the task time, he didn't think much about it. Retake a set of clothes from the system. Then he quickly put it on his body, and ran out of the door. When he left the house, Zhaojian turned his head and cast a glance behind him. Only then did I know that I had actually slept in a hot spring shop all night before. Kagura's eyes. At the same time as the rapid leaping towards Kikyo Castle Tower, Zhaojian's perception quickly radiated out. After noticing that there was nothing unusual on the tower, he was relieved. If you slept for yourself, Kikyo Castle fell. Then I have to lose 20,000 prestige points. Ha, Kushina. Zhaojian suddenly stopped rushing. When the perception is withdrawn from the direction of Kikyo Castle Tower, he suddenly noticed that not far behind him, there was a figure following him closely. And this figure, it is Kushina no doubt. Cough 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 cough. Seeing herself exposed, Kushina coughed violently. Are you okay? Zhaojian jumped and fell beside Kushina. Then gently patted her back, helping her smoothly with concern. Nothing, nothing, what can I do? Kushina responded with some guilty conscience. Then his cheeks began to turn red. She has been carrying the nickname of Tomato since she was a child, and her face flushed at this time, which is more appropriate to her nickname. But the difference is that she is a very attractive tomato. It's fine. Zhaojian naturally took Kushina's jade hand. The two of them strolled towards Kikyo Castle Tower together. Feeling the temperature in the palm of her hand, Kushina's heart kept beating. Walk all the way to Kikyo Castle. Kushina's head was low on her chest, not daring to lift it up. This made Zhaojian feel that Kushina, who fell in love, was so shy and shy. Master Zhaojian, Master Kushina, Master Zhaojian, Master Kushina. Zhaojian and Kushina walked up to the tower, and countless Konoha shinobi greeted them excitedly. What's more, he bowed directly to the two of them. It seems that you also have the title of an adult. After nodding to the Konoha shinobi, Zhaojian lowered his head and smiled softly in Kushina's ear. The heat reached Kushina's ears, making her heart slightly sweet. Then of course, yesterday I caught Ebizo with my own hands. Kushina blushed and annoyed. Some are proud, and stand up. The battle yesterday, the greatest credit is definitely Zhaojian. But if it comes to second place, it is Kushina. Therefore, the two of them at the moment are heroes in the minds of the defenders of Kikyo Castle. Illustration. Senior read, there was nothing wrong with last night, right? When Zhaojian and Kushina came to the tower, Yuri Junhong was also here. And he still had a pair of panda eyes, apparently he didn't sleep all night. It's okay, no problem. After the sand shinobi collected their bodies last night, they retreated 10 miles and set up camp. Seeing Zhaojian's arrival, Yuri Junhong responded enthusiastically. Although Zhaojian's is still very young, Yuri is really red, but he dare not neglect. Without it, because Zhaojian's strength is too strong. And his way of fighting is not like a ninja releasing ninjutsu to kill the enemy. With a knife, he directly cut over the encirclement of sand shinobi. That way of fighting like a demon god is much more shocking than the ninjas. I see. Hearing sand shinobi retreating, Zhaojian nodded. It seems that the 4-star mission of the system is already firmly established. At this time, after yesterday's killing, Zhaojian's prestige value has reached 43,000 points. In addition to the system tasks that are about to be completed, he already has more than 60,000 prestige points. This foreshadows, he will be soon. You can start the first advanced lottery. Farewell to Yuri Junhong. Zhaojian and Kushina wandered around the tower again. As for the teachings of Kakashi, Zhaojian had long been left behind. So at this time, Kakashi was struggling downstairs, practicing his own knife swing. Ding! Congratulations to the master for completing the task and guarding Kikyo City and rewarding 20,000 prestige points. Close black lens bracket. Time came to noon. The prompt for the completion of the system task suddenly rang in Zhaojian's mind. Kagura's eyes spread backwards. Sure enough, a team of 3,000 people, from the back of Kikyo Castle, stepped into the inside of Kikyo Castle. What's wrong? Seeing Zhaojian suddenly turned his head to look behind Kikyo Castle. Kushina was also puzzled, and then turned to look over. But of course she couldn't see anything. Kushina, let me teach you how to perceive ninjutsu. Point 0. See the confused look on Kushina's face. Zhaojian thought for a while, and then decided to teach her to be happy. After all, she is also her own future woman. If there is no perception, and he is not present, that really made myself a little worried. Perception. Hear what Zhaojian said. Kushina turned around in surprise. I am not an ordinary perception ninjutsu. This perception ninjutsu is in the ninja world, but it is one of the best in existence. And you must have the physique of the Vortex clan to perform this sense perception technique. Ignore Kushina's surprise. Zhaojian opened his mouth and began to introduce Kagura to her. But when talking about the Vortex family, Kushina suddenly interrupted Zhaojian with a strange look. Are you from the Vortex family? That's why you have such a huge amount of chakra. Illustration. Kushina suddenly realized. Then he looked at Zhaojian's hair color strangely. Shouldn't the Whirlpool family all have red hair? Cough cough. One of my ancestors belonged to the Vortex clan, so I also inherited the physique of Vortex. Seeing Kushina staring at her hair, Zhaojian lied casually. Just when Orochimaru led reinforcements into Kikyo Castle, Sunagaku's large group also arrived in front of the camp set up by Yi Kang and others. Master Chiyo. Outside the camp, Yi Kang led a team of sand shinobi that had been waiting for a long time. After seeing the 1,000 generations at the forefront of the army, she hurriedly bit the bullet and greeted them. Why, didn't you take Kikyo Castle? Could it be that Konoha village has been prepared for a long time? Seeing Yi Kang and others camp here, Chiyo frowned and asked with some doubts. After all, Sunagaku, but when the assembly was not complete, he sent 2 waves of teams to take the lead in the raid. It's not defensive, but... Hearing Chiyo's questioning, Yi Kang and others all ended up in a sentence. Award 10 times the enemy. In the end, his side was beheaded 2/3. This made them wonder how to speak the 360 road for a while. What about Ebizo? Why didn't you see others? Seeing Yi Kang and the others hesitating, Chiyo looked a little unhappy. She wanted to ask the team commander directly, but found that Ebizo was not here. Yi Kang and others fell into silence for a while. The frustrated atmosphere began to radiate gradually. Say it. What happened? Noticed that not only Yi Kang was silent. The sand shinobi beside her also began to show sad emotions on their faces. Chidai felt it all at once, with an unknown premonition. Just now, a breeze blew from the direction of Kikyo Castle. A faint fishy wind accompanied it. This made the bad feeling in Chiyo's heart become stronger. Master Hai Ebizo is captured. Holding the mentality of death sooner or later. Yi Kang, who was silent for a while, gritted his teeth and said it. Taste boom. A thunder blasted in Chiyo's mind. She stumbled, then fell straight back. Chiyo-sama. Chiyo-sama. The sand shinobi group behind Chiyo exclaimed. They stretched out their hands and quickly helped her down. Quickly pinch her in the crowd. An anxious voice sounded. After a crowd of sand shinobi, there was a rush of first aid measures. Chiyo coughed and woke up leisurely. All of her people were pinched bald. laughing and crying. 2. What the hell is going on? When he woke up, Chio grabbed Yi Kang and asked anxiously. Both her son and daughter-in-law died in World War II. And her grandson also somehow disappeared some time ago. Sasori. Now Ebizo is her only relative. Illustration. I heard that Ebizo was FK'd. She suddenly became a little angry, which led to the fainting just now. Chio-sama. It's better to enter the headquarters, it's a bit unsuitable here. Seeing the brigade behind him, they all cast their curious gazes, Luo Sha said in a heavy voice. Chio's inexplicable fall, but the army's heart was shaken for a while. Yes, Chio-sama, let's go in first. More than a dozen sand shinobi people around also gave Chio comfort. Since it's not a good thing, it's better to report it after a meeting. You don't have to say it directly, it may hurt the morale of the army. Seeing that all the companions around him said so, Chio didn't refute it. After all, she didn't know anything about being confused. Luo Sha shouted, "Let the teams all stand by in place." Then everyone followed Yi Kang's steps and stepped into the camp together. When they came to the built command post, everyone was seated. Yi Kang then explained the situation of yesterday's battle. Let's talk about it from encountering the detonating talisman trap. It was only when Ebizo was captured and the dead bodies counted. A group of sand shinobi executives in the command post. During Yi Kang's report, he exclaimed and inhaled cold breath from time to time. Baiyun Zhaojian, one person killed more than 600 people in my village. When did Konoha have another character like this? Is such a powerful person who has always been unknown before. Is Konoha deliberately hiding such a powerful character? What is their purpose in doing this at Konoha village? After the report, there was a brief silence in the command post. Then the noise of various discussions began to resound in the command center. Almost every village is secretly collecting information on enemy villages from each other. Konoha is the center of care for each village. But they have never heard of Baiyun Zhaojian in Konoha village. It was as if he had emerged out of thin air. This makes them have to doubt Konoha's purpose for doing this. We don't know the specific situation either. We also learned of the existence of Baiyun Zhaojian for the first time after the pioneer team was killed. Yi Kang's voice is more solemn than anyone else. In this command center, only she has really seen Zhaojian's strength. She is also the person who has the most intuitive feeling about Zhaojian's power. That kind of guy is definitely not the one who can be taken down with a superior number of people. And his fighting style is very different from ordinary ninjas. Okay, don't make a noise. Chio, who was in a bad mood, immediately snarled with anger when he heard the noisy noises in the command post. This allowed the headquarters to gradually become quiet again. Tell him his abilities and fighting methods in detail. After silence fell in the command headquarters, Chio turned his head and asked Yi Kang. Yes, Yi Kang groaned. I recalled all of Zhaojian's abilities in my head, and then said to everyone. He has an S-level wind-style ninjutsu. Its power is very huge, and the range of ninjutsu is 100 meters in diameter. His speed is very fast, more than several times that of ordinary people. Moreover, at the end of the battle, he even broke the sound barrier speed. He has a layer of unidentified barrier defense on his body. The strength of its defense even directly resisted my past. Illustration. The last is his swordsmanship. He can swing a tsunami-like slash at a height of more than 20 meters. Start with the first sentence of Yi Kang's introduction. Every time she finishes saying a word, the atmosphere in the command post becomes serious. When she finished talking about Zhaojian's abilities, the needle was already audible in the command center. Attack, speed, and defense are all in one. Is this guy a monster? In the hearts of all Sand Shinobi's senior executives, they felt unusual troubles. Have you tried an illusion attack? After listening to what Yi Kang reported, Chio was silent for a while, then solemnly asked. Zhaojian's intelligence is simply too tricky. When facing Konoha Sannin, Chio didn't feel that way. No matter how strong Konoha Sannin is, he still has obvious weaknesses. But this Baiyun Zhaojian's information is like a copper wall and an iron wall, giving people a very quiet and invincible feeling. The two illusion ninjas in the team have tried both. But because the opponent's speed is so fast, they don't have a chance to activate illusion at all. Yi Kang replied somewhat helplessly. Whether specific illusions are useful for Zhaojian is still an unsolved mystery. Because at the speed of Zhaojian, they had no chance to perform illusions at all, and they were already beheaded on the spot by Zhaojian. After Yi Kang finished speaking, there was a deep silence in the headquarters. At this moment, everyone's feelings are directly displayed on their faces. That is solemn, unusually solemn. This Baiyun Zhaojian's ability is simply invincible. Attack, speed, and defense are all in one. This makes all Sand Shinobi feel very big heads. A feeling that you can't beat, and you can't keep it when people want to leave. Always begging for mercy in the hearts of all Sand Shinobi, it made them feel helpless and helpless. Report. At this time, a perception ninja broke into the command post. Broke the heavy atmosphere in the headquarters. Report to Chiyo-sama, sirs. The number of people above Kikyo Castle has increased, and Konoha's reinforcements have arrived at Kikyo Castle. After the perception ninja glanced at everyone present, he bowed quickly and reported. Konoha is so fast. Yeah, I thought Konoha's reinforcements would arrive tomorrow. I didn't expect them to arrive at this moment. It seems that we can't win Kikyo Castle today. Chiyo's face was also very gloomy as he listened to the whispering in his ears. After hearing Yi Kang's report on the number of people in Kiyomizu City just now, she also plans to immediately lead her army to attack Kikyo Castle. Relying on the advantage of the number of people, Ebizo can be rescued directly. But I didn't expect it. Konoha's reinforcements. At this moment, he arrived at Kikyo Castle. In this way, her previous measures to rescue Ebizo would be disrupted all at once. Because after a march, the Sand Shinobi army at this moment are all in a state of fatigue. If you let them go to attack the city right now, that would obviously be a very unwise choice. Because they no longer have the advantage of suppressing the number of people. Although Konoha's reinforcements must be equally exhausted at this time. However, they are on the defensive side, and they have the advantage of location. So at this time, the chance of breaking Kikyo Castle is obviously very small. Call, Losa, you go down first and settle down the army first. Chiyo let out a suffocating breath, and reluctantly ordered Luo Sha. Since I can't fight for the time being, then arrange for the army to replenish its strength and wait until tomorrow to fight again. Yes, get Chiyo's order. Luo Sha responded and walked straight out of the headquarters. At this time, he has not yet become fourth Kazekage, but he is actually the same as Yi Kang. Just a budding, Sunagaku rookie. Above the tower of Kikyo Castle. Because of the arrival of Konoha reinforcements, the defenders of Kikyo Castle, who had been a little sparse, were immediately enriched. But the slight pressure that originally hung over the defenders' hearts, it was also swept away at this moment. Baiyun Zhaojian is a knife. Kill 600 enemies. Inside the gate tower of Kikyo Castle. After listening to Yuri Junhong's report, Orochimaru turned his head in surprise and shock. Yes, Taha Junhong nodded, and said to Orochimaru, we are still at the last moment, capturing Sunagaku's elder Ebizo. At this moment, Orochimaru came with a large force to support. Has replaced Shiri Junhong. Became the top commander on the front line of Kikyo Castle. I didn't expect that he was so strong After being confirmed by Yuri Junhong again, Orochimaru spoke in a husky voice and said in disbelief. He was shocked by the information that Zhaojian had killed 160 people before. But he believes that he can do this kind of thing too. But at this time, I heard that Zhaojian was relying on a knife. In the encirclement of Sand Shinobi, killed an afternoon. This really made Orochimaru somewhat horrified. Because of this kind of thing, he really heard of it for the first time. Right, where is Baiyun Zhaojian? Where is he at this time? After recovering, Orochimaru suddenly became very curious and interested in Zhaojian. So I want to meet Konoha's most recent figure. He is probably in the pavilion on the west side of the city wall at this moment. Hearing Orochimaru's inquiry, Yuhi Mahong also told the truth. After all, this thing does not involve any personal privacy, so there is nothing to hide. After getting the location of Zhaojian, Orochimaru was curious, and followed the direction to find the past. When I came to the west of the city wall, I saw two of them in the pavilion 360. One of them is Kushina, and Orochimaru knows her naturally. With his prestige in Konoha, He even knew that Kushina was the identity of Nine-Tails Jinchuriki. And another figure in a samurai costume. It is undoubtedly that Orochimaru is the target to meet Baiyun Zhaojian. But far away, seeing the two people at this moment, there is some ambiguity. Orochimaru hesitated, and finally decided not to bother. Now that he is in Kikyo Castle, I'll see it sooner or later. Thinking of this, Orochimaru shook his head, turned and walked back. Gradually gather the central power. Can you feel it now? In the pavilion west of the city, Zhaojian held Kushina's cheeks in both hands. With fingers gently, point the sun six on both sides of her. Guided her with full concentration, learning Kagura's mind-eye perception technique. So Zhaojian really didn't notice the arrival of Orochimaru just now. I feel a little fuzzy figure. Zhaojian held his head in the palm of his hand, which made Kushina's cheeks flush. However, she still obediently followed Zhaojian's teachings, studying diligently. Konoha Village. In the Hokage building. Because of the relationship during the war, Konoha high-level officials and patriarchs of all races gather here almost every day. Purpose: just to be in the war. Respond faster and in a timely manner. After all, during the war, time also means the key to victory or defeat in the war. This is the latest intelligence. At this time, Iwagakure is gathering the team wildly. It seems that Oyeki is a bit unwilling to lag behind. Sarutobi Hiruzen raised the scroll in his hand and said very solemnly. He didn't expect that Iwagakure would be so decisive. The information about the outbreak of the war only came out one day. They actually made up their minds and started to assemble the team directly. Is Rock Shinobi going to deal with us, or is it going to deal with Sunagakure? Udatane Kaharu turned to look at Sarutobi Hiruzen, and asked in a heavy voice. Everyone else also turned their attention to third generation. Only the patriarch of the Nara clan shook his head helplessly. I don't know the specifics yet. But 9 out of 10, I will call Konoha directly. Sarutobi Hiruzen replied solemnly. The country of wind and the country of fire. One is barren and the other is rich in resources. Actually don't have to guess. Iwagakure will definitely put his sight. Put it first on the tempting cake of the country of fire. This is why third generation has always been committed to peace and does not want to let war break out at will. Because the country of fire is at the center of all countries, and it is also the country with the richest resources. So every time a war breaks out, the country of fire will be the target of a group attack. So in every war, Konoha needs to look forward to the end, and even fight on several lines at the same time. This makes Konoha the party that consumes the most after each war. Report the victory of Kikyo Castle. Master third generation, good news. In the meeting room, while discussing Iwagakure, a ninja with an excited expression rushed directly into the meeting room. Then, holding a scroll in both hands, he walked to the third generation where the Lord was sitting. A victory for Kikyo Castle. Orochimaru and others should have just reached Kikyo Castle at this point in time. I heard loud shouts from the intelligence officers. A group of high-level officials and patriarchs turned their curiosity to the intelligence in the hands of third generation. At this time, Sarutobi Hiruzen was also curious and opened the intelligence scroll. Ha 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 ha. The content of the information that caught the eye first made third generation stunned. Then he suddenly laughed again. This time is really a big victory. The Sunagakure 1,000-member brigade attacked Kikyo Castle. Not only did it fail to defeat it, but people were beheaded instead. Even Ebizo, the highest commander of the Sand Shinobi force, was taken directly into captivity. After third generation finished speaking, the whole meeting room fell silent. Everyone looked at each other. Orochimaru and others should have just arrived in Kikyo Castle at this time. So this victory is naturally impossible for them to achieve. Then this battle report. It is undoubtedly Kikyo Castle, the 100 defenders made a victory. But how did the 100 defenders resist the 1,000-man brigade and kill 650 people? Could it be that the defenders of Kikyo Castle set up some traps to kill the enemy? The patriarch of the Nara clan asked curiously. Upon hearing this, other senior officials and patriarchs also fixed their curious eyes on third generation. Such a huge gap in numbers. Can still kill 650 people. All they can think of is the idea of a trap in Sunagakure. No, this is not a conspiracy to kill the enemy. This is a real bloody battle. In a good mood, third generation couldn't help being naughty. After talking for a while, he deliberately lit his pipe. The slow movement tickles everyone's curiosity. Bloody battle. How can this be? 100 people beat 1,000 people, and people beheaded. Is it actually a frontal fight? Yeah, this is incredible, right? Hearing Sunagaker, it was not a trap or ambush. In the meeting room, there was a loud noise of surprise. Sarutobi, don't hang our appetite. Seeing third generation's face exposed. Mitokado Homura shook his head helplessly. Ha ha ha, good, good, good. Seeing everyone's eyes, they gathered on me again. Then third generation explained the content of the information in detail. What is Baiyun Zhaojian again? Man with a knife, in the encirclement of Sand Shinobi, slaughtered for an entire afternoon. He can kill 600 people alone. All the high-level patriarchs were horrified. Yesterday, they were shocked enough to receive information from Zhaojian who killed 160 people. But I didn't expect. Only one day has passed. He actually beheaded another 600 enemies. And still relying on a knife. In the encirclement of Sand Shinobi, he came out abruptly. The sound of cold breath and exclamation appeared one after another in the conference room. Everyone was buzzed with shocked heads by Zhaojian's record. This guy was before January. He is completely unknown. Unexpectedly, he burst into the sky suddenly. It would actually cause such a huge boom. This dazzling record makes people a little bit unbelievable. Changed for the beautiful, good king's piano who helped Grandpa come to the meeting. Hearing that the village leaders were shocked by Zhaojian's strength and record. She is also like Urongyan, holding her chest up. Ha ha ha, great, it really deserves to be the grandson-in-law that the old man fancy. Sitting in the seat of the Uchiha clan, the wrinkles on his face are almost turning into chrysanthemums. After this battle of Zhaojian, clipped. Absolutely no one will laugh at the Uchiha clan again. What if Uchiha was defeated in 7 games? It's just Baiyun Zhaojian, it's too strong. They are defeated. Grandfather. Hearing the great elder in full view, he told the relationship between himself and Zhaojian. Makoto's cheeks suddenly turned red like an apple with shame. It is simply charming. If Zhaojian were here at this time, he probably couldn't help but kiss him. Zhaojian, who was in Kikyo City, had no idea. Just when he taught Kushina to learn Kagura Shinyen. Konoha's high-level officials have already announced the victory of the front line from the Hokage building. So everyone in the whole village was a sensation. People who know Zhaojian, or people who don't know Zhaojian. At this moment, he was inexplicably shocked by his record of beating 600 people. It was originally because the war had just broken out. There is a tense atmosphere in the village. Under the victory of the Kikyo castle, he became cheered. The crowd spontaneously discussed in 2s and 3s on the street. For a time, Konoha's topic all became Baiyun Zhaojian. Oh, are you 600 new enemies? Who the hell is Baiyun Zhaojian? Why never heard of it before? I heard the people around me talked about. A tall, white-haired man with a forehead protector in oil on his head muttered to himself. He is just like Orochimaru. Also one of Konoha Sannin Jiraiya. Originally, he was peeping around outside the village for the reason of collecting materials. But after 360 heard the news of the outbreak of the war. He hurried back immediately, but I didn't expect it. It didn't take long to return to the village. I heard such a shocking news. 1 sword per person, kill 600 enemies in the encirclement of Sand Shinobi. In Jiraiya's heart, a stormy sea was set off. If you don't call the frog text too. With his own strength, he can't do this kind of thing. So how can Jiraiya not be shocked when he hears this kind of thing? Unexpectedly, I haven't paid attention to the village for a while. The village actually appeared, such an incredible person. Jiraiya's voice was full of shock and emotion. Finished. He listened to the discussion around him silently. He walked slowly in the direction of the Hokage building. The purpose of his return from this trip was to help the village survive the war. And he also wanted to know if the ninja war broke out again, whether Tsunade would come back. Jiraiya is unrequited love, will not poison. In the pavilion of Kikyo Castle west of the city. After Zhaojian's careful teaching, Kushina finally learned the spirit of God. But because she had just mastered this technique, she was not very proficient. So currently, she can only perceive a range of 2 to 3 kilometers in diameter. But even so, it is already very powerful. After all, unlike Zhaojian, she has a system to directly integrate skills. Can you perceive the number of people in Kikyo Castle? Zhaojian put Kushina in his arms and asked in a soft voice. Of course, he is not referring to oil. He was just to prevent Kushina from using Kagura Minyan for the first time. I'm afraid that she will be overwhelmed and fall down accidentally. Funny. Gif. I feel it. 3,112 people. Kushina buried her head in Zhaojian's arms, and replied in a shy voice. At this moment, her face was so annoying that she was red to the root of her ears. Although Zhaojian was teaching seriously at this time, he had no other thoughts. But Kushina's mind, always unconsciously think of last night. I think of the scene where she cleans someone's blood stains while he is asleep. Thinking of those 8-pack abs. Thinking of those strong thighs. Thinking of these, Kushina's heart is even more embarrassed. No, you can feel it better. Perceiving the shyness of Acda Nai, Zhaojian couldn't help teasing her. Is it wrong? I heard Zhaojian say that the number is wrong. Kushina, who was closing her eyes to perceive, became a little dull for a while. Then began to increase his mind. Over and over again in Kikyo, looking for fish that slipped through the net. Seeing Kushina closing her eyes seriously, Zhaojian suddenly couldn't help but bowed his head and kissed it on her Sakura lip. Boom, click, feeling the temperature between her lips, a thunder blasted in Kushina's heart. Her perception radiates in Kikyo Castle. Suddenly out of control, he was forcibly retracted into his body. Do you perceive it now? With his lips, Zhaojian couldn't help but smashed his tongue, and asked with some smirk. Sense, I feel that there are still 2 of us. Kushina's face was almost red and bleeding. But she did not resist Zhaojian. On the contrary, at this moment, her heart seemed to be smeared with honey. Feel the special sweetness. Ha 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 ha. Seeing Kushina's face full of shame, Zhaojian was suddenly happy and laughed heartily. Think about her carefree and violent character when she first met Kushina. Nowadays, he will blush from time to time. Zhaojian felt satisfaction in his heart. Just like the sense of accomplishment gained by passing the level when playing the game in the previous life. The sense of happiness is full of filling in my heart. Zhaojian's laughter made Kushina's face a little back. Suddenly it turned red again. The head is buried lower and lower. In the end, he became a shy ostrich. After a while, Zhaojian stopped and hugged Kushina quietly and comfortably. The warm atmosphere spreads in the pavilion. It didn't take long for Zhaojian to look at each other with Kushina again. The atmosphere of warm ambiguity is getting stronger and stronger. The heads of the 2 also gradually moved closer to each other again. The sun is gradually westward, but the warm and romantic atmosphere has not diminished at all. Zhaojian and Kushina leaned together so tightly, watching and admiring the afterglow of the setting sun in Kikyo Castle together. Invaded and sunk on the front lines of the war, in the rare 2-person world. The warm time is always very short. In the blink of an eye, the night passed. After a night of fermentation, the Konoha shinobi who had just arrived in Kikyo Castle also learned about the battle with Sand Shinobi yesterday. So I became Zhaojian and Kushina, 2 people. When I came to Kikyo Castle, city wall upper again. Countless Konoha shinobi people saluted them one after another. The prestige value in Zhaojian's mind also continued to grow in this process, and finally reaped nearly 3,000 benefits. And his prestige value, at this time has reached a huge 66,000 points. The 100,000 mark is getting closer and closer. Walking on the city wall, the 2 arrived at the city gate in a short while. This place is very different from yesterday. Inside the gate tower that was a bit empty. At this time there has been an extra large table, and there is a row of chairs next to the large table. This place seems to have become a temporary headquarters. And Zhaojian was still inside, and saw several familiar faces. The 3 contemporary Ino Shikacho are among them. But to Zhaojian's slight surprise, Minato didn't come. Master Zhaojian, Master Kushina. A ninja standing guard outside the city gate immediately saluted and greeted after seeing Zhaojian and Kushina. This also attracted the curious eyes of everyone in the city gate. Isn't it bothering you? Zhaojian first nodded to the ninja standing guard. Then he asked politely to everyone in the gate tower. No, 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 no. There is also a place for you here, please come in. After hearing Zhao Jian's words, a group of Konoha commanders and captains greeted Zhao Jian kindly. My position. Hearing what they said, Zhao Jian was a little curious. After all, I don't know. When did I become a member of the command headquarters? On the front line, as long as you reach the level of Jonin, you can participate in the headquarters meeting. Seeing Zhao Jian's expression a little confused, Yamanaka said at once. I see. Hearing what Yamanaka said, Zhao Jian suddenly realized. Then, under the warm greetings of several ninjas, he sat comfortably on a chair by the conference table. And Kushina, naturally, was sitting beside Zhao Jian. After all, she is also at the level of Jonin, and she is also eligible to participate in the meeting. And the relationship between the two went a step further yesterday. So all this way, Kushina has been holding Zhao Jian's arm. After the two of them were seated, Konoha Jonin around the conference table began to introduce themselves to Zhao Jian one after another. It seems to be a relationship. This made Zhao Jian a little bit dumbfounded for a while. But since they wanted to make friends with themselves, Zhao Jian did not refuse. Because no matter in any world, grown-ups need to go to the right and left, and just talk about people when they see people and talk nonsense when they see ghosts. There is no need to be kind to them, to deliberately show love and ignore them. After all, they have a companionship with themselves. Papa, Papa, Papa. Not long after Zhao Jian and Kushina entered the headquarters, a few footsteps followed in from the door. The breath of the leader exudes a little cunning and insidiousness. Zhao Jian didn't even have to look back to know it was Orochimaru. Because when they entered the city yesterday, Zhao Jian's sacred eyes had already scanned all the leaders. Zhao Jian-kun finally met. When Orochimaru entered the door, he immediately noticed Zhao Jian. Because of the aura of Zhao Jian, among the Jonin in this group of headquarters, there is simply an extraordinary existence. That is the aura that the strong unknowingly release by themselves. And Zhao Jian during this time, because of the heavy killing. Therefore, his aura is not only extremely strong, but also faintly accompanied by a trace of blood. Snakes are very intuitive animals. And Orochimaru, who believes in snakes, obviously inherited this intuition. Therefore, as soon as he entered the door, he noticed the existence of Zhao Jian. Senior Orochimaru. Hearing Orochimaru calling himself, Zhao Jian also got up and looked back and nodded, then sat down again. As a traverser who is familiar with the plot, Zhao Jian is naturally familiar with Orochimaru. Because of this, Zhao Jian is not particularly friendly to him. His preconceived vision of God made him not much to see Orochimaru. Ha ha, you are now Konoha's hero. Regardless of Zhao Jian's attitude, Orochimaru laughed with a husky noise. Hearing what he said, Zhao Jian nodded irresponsibly. Orochimaru walked to the head of the conference table. This stopped the conversation with Zhao Jian and entered the subject of the meeting. The main topic of the meeting was how to deal with the content of Sand Shinobi Village. Because Chiyo brought Sand Shinobi, there were 6,000 people, more than twice the number of Konoha. Therefore, some people feel that when the number of people is not dominant, it is best to focus on the defense of insurance. Some people also think that Sand Shinobi should be driven out of the country of fire. Then came out various ideas. Zhao Jian-kun, how do you think we should deal with Sunagakur? After some fruitless discussion, Orochimaru then asked Zhao Jian, who had been silent. After hearing Orochimaru's question, a group of Konoha Jonin also looked at Zhao Jian curiously. They also want to know what Zhao Jian thinks. Point 0. After all, Zhao Jian is not only about strength. At the same time, he is also the only person who has fought Sunagakur twice after the war broke out. As for the other one, of course it is Kushina. What is there to discuss? Of course, I just called it over. Seeing everyone's sights, they focused on themselves. Zhao Jian shrugged and answered with a relaxed and serious expression on his face. Lord Zhao Jian, the number of each other is more than twice ours. We don't have the mighty strength of you to kill 100 people. Yes, if the number of people is not dominant, it is better to come up with a strategy. I heard that I wanted to go straight ahead. A group of Konoha Jonin suddenly couldn't help wiping the sweat from their foreheads. 3,000 people rushed directly to beat 6,000 people. You are so bold, but we can't. We don't have the strength of your 100 people. All Konoha Jonin smiled bitterly in their hearts. Then I have no choice. Zhaojian shook his head and spread his hands. However, his heart also murmured secretly. Yesterday, when it was 10 times more than ourselves, didn't we also call in? Thanks for watching, please like and subscribe.